You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Christopher Media, let's make some noise.
Number 9.
Welcome to a special episode of the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White, and joining me is Miss Heather Drain.
Well, hello.
And we are here talking about Ego Fest. It's Ego Fest 9 for the 9th season, or 9th year, not season. We don't do season shit around here. For the 9th year of the podcast. God, can you imagine if I did seasons? I would actually have, time off in between seasons.
There's no time off for what we do in this world. There's no time off for artists. Just glamour, gruel, and glory.
I should have announced you as the Rondo nominated Heather Drain.
You don't have to, though. I mean, it's good. It's all good. I think the listeners, especially our longtime ones, they're hopefully familiar. They're like, oh, there's that Heather girl. And hopefully not, oh, sweet Jesus. Mike's got her on again.
People request you. They request Rob. And, yeah, you two are, the most popular co-hosts.
That right there, that's better than any Rondo right there, because that's straight from the people. And to be put next to Rob, who you and I both love dearly, for those of you listening, we're talking about Rob St. Mary, who is one of the best guys and co-hosts ever.
And you don't need any special chair if you have that sort of a recognition.
No, sir.
King in the castle. I have a chair.
If folks haven't listened to an Ego Fest before, well, I'm sorry, because we're not talking about any sort of particular movie or anything. We're just kind of going to be chewing the rag a little bit, as they say in the Symphony of Slang, and just, getting out there and, pimping our own projects for a little bit, as well as pimping the patrons, because the patrons are what helps make this whole thing go, and I have some things for the patrons in a little bit. And, not a whole lot of new patrons this time, but that's okay, because it means that it won't be me just reading off a list like I'm at a graduation ceremony.
Chewing the rag?
Yeah. Don't you remember that? When they're at the table together and they basically pick up the tablecloth and they start chewing it on either end, almost like Lady and the Tramp?
It was the soda clerk. We sat down and chewed the rag a while. I heard from the grapevine that Mary was going around with an old flame.
That sounds disturbing. I think if I was at a dinner, people start randomly chewing on the napkins like that, I might have to excuse myself and leave. I don't know. Chewing the rag. Wow, you learn something new every day. See, Ego Fest people, join me and learn more new things. Mike, thank you, by the way, for letting me co-host with you. This is my second Ego Fest with you.
Yeah, the first one was a 4-hour affair? I felt so bad.
It was our Berlin Alexanderplatz of Ego Fest.
We were just talking about Revette films earlier. We're going for an out one kind of a thing, but we ended up with Spectre at least.
Yeah. If not Celine and Julie Go Boating. We were chewing all the rags that...
You were one co-host, Chris was another, and Rob was the third. It was kind of nuts.
That would explain. I'm just relieved to know it wasn't... It wasn't just sweet Lord woman, shut your mouth.
So what kind of things are going on in your world, Heather?
Well, other than being nominated for a Rondo.
Were you just nominated the one time? Because you had the book out last year.
I guess I was nominated for the book that John, Skip, and I have written, the Bizarro Encyclopedia of Film Volume 1, which, if anybody's curious, you can buy that on Barnes & Noble online or Amazon. We're hoping to have it further available through the Fungasm website, which is the publisher of the book. And I highly recommend buying the book because that's better than winning an award. Give us money. Read our work. That supports us. I believe Kat Ellinger and I were nominated for Hell's Bells, though I think they got us confused and put me as one of the Daughters of Darkness, which is her show with Sam Deegan, which is an excellent show, and I highly recommend it. So I don't know if they confused me and Sam. That's happened before, which Sam Deegan's awesome, so I guess if you're going to confuse me with somebody, at least it's someone cool. And I think Kat and I were nominated for the Toys Are Not for Children commentary that we did for Arrow, and I think they misspelled Kat's name.
They should really hire a fact checker, a spell checker.
All the checkers. Get a checker from the Winn-Dixie down the road. Just somebody.
Somebody to actually help this nomination and the actual voting process so you're not sending an email with your nominations. And
yeah, maybe not put it on a, have it all on a GeoCities website from 2001.
The movie, the Monster Kid classic horror board or something. Oh my God. It is just so janky.
It needs some updating. That's for sure. Now, I will preface all of this and what we're about to probably go into with anybody that nominates you for anything. That's, I appreciate it. Like, I do truly appreciate it. I mean, it's always better for somebody to say, hey, good job than, hey, you're a piece of shit.
True.
And I think it's like anything. I think there are a lot of people that definitely, like, they mean well and the intention's awesome. I personally, I have a problem with awards in general. And the Rondos have always kind of, I think, historically been one that's been very, very, I don't want to say the P word that rhymes with problematic, but
I thought you were going to do one that rhymes with atriarchal.
That's a better one. Yeah, because they historically in the past have been very bad about recognizing any minorities in general in the various genre fields, like whether it's women or, African Americans or, people in the LGBT community. And granted, nobody misunderstand me. I'm not saying someone should just get nominated because, that person's a woman or whatever. But there's plenty of great work out there that are done by people that are in those minority groups. And it's not just the same kind of old guard, middle-aged, middle-class white men. I mean, and honestly, there's some good men that are in those categories that hardly never got recognized. It seemed to be a very tiny pool, of people. And a lot of people had issues with that because the whole arena has grown so much over the years, which is awesome. So I think they're making strides to try and fix that, which is awesome. But again, for me, all awards, and I don't care if it's the Rondos or the Oscars, it's all bullshit and poppycock. It's all the student council. It's a popularity contest. I don't think you can, rate artists or anything creative by doing it like that. I just think it's bullshit, personally. No offense to anybody that loves it. If you get happiness from it, great. Genuinely, I'm happy for you. But for me, no, thank you.
I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to be able to work. I'm greatly honored. We are laughed at when we are up here, sometimes for thanking. But when you work on a film, you discover that there are people who are giving that artistic part of themselves that goes beyond a paycheck. And they are never up here, and many of them are not members of the Academy, and we never hear of them. But this Oscar is a symbol, I think, and it is given for appreciation from those people whom we never see. They are part of our life. I refuse to believe that I beat Jack Lemmon, that I beat Al Pacino, that I beat Peter Sellers. I refuse to believe that Robert Duvall lost. We are a part of an artistic family. There are 60,000 actors in the Screen Actors Guild and probably 100,000 in Equity. And most actors don't work, and a few of us are so lucky to have a chance to work with writing and to work with directing. Because when you're a broke actor, you can't write, you can't paint. You have to practice accents while you're driving a taxi cab. And to that artistic family that strives for excellence, none of you have ever lost, and I am proud to share this with you, and I thank you.
So the projection booth has been nominated, I don't know how many years in a row now, and it never should have even got a nomination, because I think the whole point of it is talking about genre, specifically talking about horror. And I've had many people say, this is not a horror podcast. One of those people was actually me. I think there are a lot of better other horror-focused podcasts out there. Once we got on the list, we just stay on the list. And it's like, hey, why don't you actually look at some other people maybe once in a while and try to get those folks on there? I mean, is that a failure of me? Should I be going on there and saying, hey, Outside the Cinema is much better than the projection booth. You really need to look at these guys.
I think there's a lot of issues like that, too, because honestly, I mean, a lot of what I do isn't strictly horror either. I mean, even one of the things that was nominated, I mean, Toys Are Not for Children isn't really a horror movie. You know, it's more of an art house drama masquerading in exploitation film clothing. Of course, I think one could argue, I mean, when it comes to anything, you know, cult and horror, they're not always the same thing, but they're usually kind of next door neighbors. So maybe that's why, but I don't know. It's just like for years, I've seen people in the community, and this includes people that range from writers and editors to like even some of the horror hosts. Every year they don't get nominated, it hurts them. And some of these people, you know, I'm not going to mention any names, but like some of them are people that do really great work. And I've seen things that got nominated and won that, in my granted opinions, are, you know, like buttholes. They're awesome. Some of the stuff that's won, I mean, I remember there's one year that there was an article that won that I couldn't believe. Like, I was like, this thing was, and it was a hot mess. Like, it was not, you know, and I'm objective. There are things that aren't to my taste that I could, but I can still read and be like, that's good writing. It's just not for me. You know, like Dr. Zhivago, the Boris Pasternak novel. For some reason, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But it's beautifully written. It just wasn't for me. But it's a, you know, it's a good book. I'm not going to shit on it. This article that won, though, was terrible, and it won out against a lot of stuff that was really good. And that's the problem with the awards and anything. Starlight Vocal Band have a Grammy. It doesn't mean anything, you know? It's like, I've grown up having all of my art heroes be people that never won awards. Like, how many Oscars does Ken Russell have? Or Zulawski? Or Hodorowski? You know what I mean? Like, it's bullshit. It's not... The community of podcasters and film writers and all of us, we work in such a small field in the grand scheme of things, you know, like we deal with subject matters that most main people don't care. They don't even know, you know, like you and I could, you know, I could say Zulawski, you know who I'm talking about. I'll go to my day job tomorrow. Nobody's going to know who Andrei Zulawski is, you know, and that's nothing against them. It's just, so I think for everything being such a small community, I hate seeing anything that makes people feel like shit, because I think there's enough things in life, and especially when you're trying to, you know, get a podcast out and you're trying to get an article out or a book out or whatever, you know, you already are having so many things against you. Why be a part of something that just makes everything, you know, just makes everybody feel bad? You know, I just think it's negative.
I just keep going back to like the actual awards themselves and like the categorization and just like how antiquated it is. Just the whole idea of best interview is a print interview. You know, and I think like all but maybe one of them are from literal print magazines. There's maybe one website, and it's like, well, what about other interviews? I tend to do a couple interviews every now and then. It's just like, I mean, I know that the guys from Shockwaves, the podcast, they do interviews all the time and they're fantastic. And it's like, well, where are those things at? I don't know. It just feels like it's more wrong than right. And it reminds me of stupid things like the frickin' Oscars, where people just get so nitpicky about the categories and things. And it's just like, the Oscars drive me nuts too, because it's just like, yeah, I'll watch these movies. I know there are great performances in them, and then they're not nominated. And so, okay, does that make me the asshole, or does that make them the asshole?
Oh, it makes them the asshole.
Okay, good.
It
good.
always
Thank
makes
you.
them the asshole.
You got to be shitting me, right? This has to be a joke. This absolutely has to be a joke.
The awards system, I think, is antiquated, but then the approach to it becomes even more antiquated, and it's just, and not in a cool vintage way, but sort of in an oldie moldy, dusty kind of way. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great podcasts that have great interviews. There's also great website interviews. I mean, I've conducted a number of interviews over the years, and I think only one of them was for print. Everything else was online. And also, like, I don't know, this is me admittedly just kind of bitching. Of all the figures in cult film, why Rondo Hatton? Like, this poor man was in, 3 movies? Max? Like, he wasn't in a lot. And he was mainly known because he had acromegaly? Am I saying that right? I'm making it sound like some kind of sandwich you get in Philadelphia.
I think it might be acromegalia.
Acromegaly is actually quite a rare disease, occurring about 3.5 patients per million per year, and it's caused by growth hormone production by a pituitary tumor. The symptoms of acromegaly can be subtle and very slow in onset, and those include changes in the sizes of your hands and your feet, as well as facial features, which include enlargement of the nose, protrusion of the jaw, something we call frontal bossing, which is enlargement of the brow bone. The issues with acromegaly are that the disease oftentimes comes on slowly over a period of years. So even though we can normalize the hormone in the long haul, some of the symptoms and signs of acromegaly are not reversible, including the bony changes that occur.
But, he had this unfortunate health issue that made his face kind of disformed looking, and he was put in these kind of schlocky movies. And that's it. Like, this poor man, hasn't he been through enough? Can't we let his ghost rest in peace? Rondo why Rondo? Why not Beverly Garland? See, maybe I would be a little more proud of being nominated if I won a Beverly Garland award. Because she's fantastic. But she actually had a solid career, too, like in cult film, and a career because she was, a great actress and vivacious, not just because, hey, this person's physically deformed, let's, exploit that.
And then you got stuff like Parasite winning Best Picture. Why not something like a classic like Gone with the Wind,
By the way, how bad were the Academy Awards this year? Did you see it? And the winner is a movie from South Korea. What the hell was that all about? We got enough problems with South Korea with trade. On top of it, they give him the best movie of the year. Was it good? I don't know. I'm looking for where let's get Gone with the Wind. Can we get Gone with the Wind back, please? The winner is from South Korea. I thought it was best foreign film, right? Best foreign movie. No, it was did this ever happen before?
Here's the problem I have with Parasite winning Best Picture. It already was nominated and won for Best Foreign Film. So if Best Foreign Film is the equivalent to Best Picture for the foreign films, why is it then allowed to be nominated for Best Picture?
I'm so surprised that Trump didn't name check fucking Birth of a Nation.
He probably thinks that the silent film era happened in the 50s, so who knows,
There was such xenophobia around Parasite even being nominated, much less winning for things. It was so crazy. I mean, I think that Robert Wall might have unfriended me because I called him out for being kind of racist when he was making a comment about the cast of Parasite winning the SAG award.
Yeah, what the hell is wrong with people? I just want to go on a big old, to quote my friend Keith, a big old Franco Nero bitch slapping festival with people. Come on, stop being a dick, stop being racist. Like, come on. Like, it's 2020. You would hope and think, I mean, naively, because obviously look at the political situation both us and the UK are going through. You would think, okay, a foreign film winning, fucking A. It's, a great movie is a great movie. Who cares where it's from? Who cares if it's in a foreign language? There's something called reading. I prefer subtitles. Like, it's not that big of a deal, But even if you don't like to read subtitles, why? I don't know. It's just like, God, people are so stupid. And the fact that Robert Wool, of all people, that's been the weirdest thing about the past few years, is just the celebrities that have kind of outed themselves as crazy conservative. And because some of them are ones that initially, like, I remember a time and place when I loved James Woods. I was like, James Woods is in this? He's a great actor. Now I see him, I'm like, oh shit, that cheese slid off that cracker big time. Like, he's terrible.
I know him, John Voight. I mean, Voight's movies from the 70s and even into the 80s. I love his cornball fest in Anaconda. Him with that whole crappy accent, just calling people baby bird and stuff. Just like, fucking A. It's just so good. And now he's a lunatic.
Oh, God. Robert Davi?
Oh, God. That makes me so sad.
That one breaks my heart. I gotta say, like, because I love Davi, and he's one of those guys. He's like Wings Hauser. He's a gift in everything. Like, it doesn't matter role, how big it is, how small it is, how big the movie is, how small. He's fucking great. And I imagine he's still great as long as he's probably one of those people, as long as you don't talk about politics with, like, man, this guy's really cool. Like, oh, he did a Lounge album. Cool. What was that about Trump?
Right.
Oh, shit. It's weird. But Robert Wool, of all people, God, I don't know.
I mean, Wool, because he's not a funny person who thinks he's a funny person, he might have been making a joke because he was talking about SAG rules and all this, and I was just like, well, you are probably a member of SAG, so, because his whole thing was it even right that they won this SAG award? Are they members of SAG? And I'm just like, okay, well, that seems, and I didn't call them out for racism. I actually called them out for xenophobia. And I was like, that's a little xenophobic. And he was like, well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, if you're a member of SAG, why don't you look into the rules? Why don't you call your guild representative and actually find out how they won if you are that concerned about the cast of Parasite winning this award? Instead of just being happy for them. It's not like you're up for an award, Robert. I mean, Cobb was a long fucking time ago.
Award nominee, Robert Wool. I just hope to God I don't find out Brian Benben's a flat earther or anything. Like, I'll never be able to watch Dream On again.
I know I'm just making some listeners super mad. Like, I posted that thing of Trump talking about Parasite a couple weeks ago. I posted that with just the one word imbecile in the Projection Booth Facebook group, and I had one guy who was just like, dude, you gotta separate your politics from the podcast. And I'm like, what the fuck are you even talking about? It's like, we all live in this world, and I'm sorry, but I can't even say from a few years ago till probably 20 years from now, there are going to be movies that are addressing the political situation that we're in right now. But even things that came out before that, you could just make so many parallels, 1984, to what's happening right now. And it's just like, come on, you have to be able to talk about these things.
I hate it so much when people say shit like that because, first of all, it's your podcast. You can talk about whatever you want on it. Like, this is, this is your format. This is your baby. You can do whatever you want. Also, I think one can argue, and I think very successfully, that most art and means of creative expression are inherently political. Like, the moment you put yourself out there in a bold way, that is political, even if you're not trying to be political. Like, not to... Okay, this is a cheeseball move on my part, but I can't help it. I love the band Rush, and that may be my biggest hot take in this, because Rush apparently are very polarizing. But, there's a whole line, like, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Art is political. That's to say, like, oh, well, don't talk about that. Why are you being such a baby? No offense to the guy that said, I'm not trying to attack him, but you're right. This is the planet we're living in. The planet's literally on fucking fire right now. Calling Trump an imbecile it's accurate. Where's the lie? But also, like, it's your expression. It's your opinion. Like, if somebody, it's not like you're putting a gun to their head being like, come on, you're gonna fucking listen to my show. Come on, do it.
Right.
Like, everybody has a choice to make. Like, I choose not to watch the show Glee.
For very good reason.
For very good reason, because I'm good. I said no, Glee, but I just don't do it. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you don't want to listen to something, that's fine, or watch something, fine. But don't make such a big to-do and be such a baby about it, where you're like, oh, I don't like it. Like, don't do it. Like, there's plenty of shit I don't like, and I don't deal with it. And that's why you don't see me online being like, oh, I can't believe they did this to He-Man, or whatever the fuck.
Out of everybody in the United States of the motherfucking America, how many people actually fucking seen Parasite? Can someone please raise your goddamn hand and tell me, for the love of Christ, how many fucking people in the United States of a motherfucking America saw Parasite? Let's have a better woke agenda, and let's go full fucking woke, and let's give Parasite, the first fucking thing they said, Parasite, the first foreign language movie to ever win Best Picture. Well, pat yourself on the fucking back, Academy. Go pat your woke ass fucking selves on the fucking back.
When people start throwing around woke like it's an insult and things, it's just like, oh my God. It is just, how can that lady on The Mandalorian know how to shoot a gun? Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh my God, really? What are you doing? Stop it.
It is scientific fact that us ovary bearers have problems with firearms. It's maddening, because sometimes, like, you see some of the stuff that people say and complain about, and do you ever, like, kind of, like, have to, like, doubt your sanity for a second and be like, am I just stuck in the most ridiculous fever dream? Like, are people really saying this shit? Like, how do you feed yourselves? How do you get through your life being so, and I mean, I'm an artist. I'm sensitive as shit.
I think you have a t-shirt that says that.
Oh my God. I need this shirt in my life right now. But it's like, how do they, I can't even fathom. Like, I remember talking about this with Kat one time. I'm surrounded sometimes by people that are big comic book fans and science fiction fans, which is cool. There's comic books. I love Alan Moore. There's sci-fi I absolutely love. I have a picture of Harlan Ellison as my lock screen on my phone right now. I feel like those kind of sci-fi fans are the ones that are arguing over, like, well, Luke Skywalker would never do that. Like, you guys know he's not real. I don't know how to break it to y'all. You can calm down right now. I just solved all your problems.
Yeah, I think the worst part about that comment was that the guy compared me to Josh Hadley.
Poor Josh. It's like, come on. I hate it. I just hate it so much when people say, like, oh, don't do. Nobody has the right to say that to anybody.
There was one review I got a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a few months ago, where it was just like, the show changed in 2016 and Mike became this big Trump hater. And I'm just like, we have been political from day one. Like, you can't talk about Salo without getting into politics. I'm sorry. You can't talk about Salo without talking about fascism and World War II and where Italy was at and just all of these things. I mean, this whole theme that I'm doing this early part of the year of 1969, so much of that is built upon what happened in 1968. Where was the world in 1969? And so almost all of these discussions that we're having are political. Some of them we tie to today's politics, but almost all of them we talk about what was going on in 1969, what had happened in 1968 that caused these movies to be the way that they are.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, there's always that saying that art is essentially a mirror. And that's anything created is kind of, there's an element of it that's reflecting what is going on. Not just with the artist, but obviously the country, the culture, the time period, etc. And so for somebody to say, well, oh, don't be political, well, that's impossible. It's literally impossible. Because even films that are fluff or viewed as fluff, you could still, the 80s, in general, I mean, almost every popular movie in the 80s is a reflection of the Reagan era in some form or fashion. So you have to talk about it. And for you not to talk about it is putting your head in the sand.
You even look at something like Night of the Comet, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that is squarely in this whole idea of nuclear annihilation, even though it's not nuclear annihilation, it's a comet. But there's a lot of stuff to be talked about in this particular thing about the trust of authority, all of these kind of things. You can just pick any, we've talked about like Night of the Creeps. There's so many things that you can talk about. I mean, horror especially is such a great way to look at the temperature of the time.
Absolutely. I mean, look at how many, 1950s, like big monster movies we had that were basically created out of atomic fear and Cold War fear too, like with Invasion of the Body Snatchers and, but to me, that's where discussion gets fun because it's, even films that sometimes get dismissed, sometimes it's the films that especially get dismissed in their initial run. It's just, oh, this is just campy or cheesy or whatever. You end up finding all these layers of like, ooh, wait, no, there's some good meat here. There's some good stuff. And that's exciting. I mean, why listen to a film discussion and not want it to get a little political when it's like that? I mean, if it's, because that's the thing, like your show has never, and you have never been like, it's never just like rhetoric go. It's always intelligent discussion. You always get experts in the field and me sometimes. And like, but you get like a great mix of people and it's always a good discussion. Like of all the podcast stuff I've done, I'm always like, in some ways the most proud of being attached to the projection booth because it's a great show. And you're very kind for having me on it.
Well, I always try to surround myself with people that I consider to be smarter than myself so that I can hear from them, just have a little foot in these discussions and be able to at least try to elevate myself to their level. Those are some of the greatest things. Those are some of the things that I love about the show the most is just what the show is a discussion and just being able to bring together all these different people and different points of view. And so far, I've been pretty darn lucky when it comes to the results of that. I mean, I've had a few duds, of course, but for the most part, having those, like I always describe them as little cocktail parties and getting these people together and just like, okay, just this afternoon, having Sam Deegan and Jonathan Owen talking about Jacques Rivette. I mean, I barely said anything because I couldn't add anything to the discussion because they were so insightful on things. And I'm just like, wow, I'm really glad to just be listening to this. And just like I'm hoping the folks at home, I was sitting there nodding my head and like, oh, that's a good point.
Oh God, I can imagine like Sam and Jonathan both on Rivette. That's like a Whitman sampler of the best variety right there. I love it. Yeah, no, but that's the fun thing. It's like discussion's good. I wish more people would be open to that in general in life because that is how we solve problems. That is how we can find a better resolution to so many of the problems on this planet. If more people discussed with each other instead of either ignoring each other or talking at each other, like, just so much of our ails as a species, a lot of it boils down to communication breakdown. And now I have that Led Zeppelin song in my head.
There have been times where I've been wanting to do episodes about movies that are or could be considered controversial as far as people that just hate a particular film and then be like, okay, cool. Why do you hate this? Or why do you love this? It would be great. Like, I really like the film Fight Club, and I know a lot of people just absolutely hate that movie. And it's just like, cool, come on the show. Let's talk about this. And I'm not going to attack you for hating this movie, and I would hope you wouldn't attack me for liking it. Let's just discuss this. Why do you feel this way? Because I'm very interested. And I think as long as the other person is open to it, we can have a really good discussion. One of my favorite episodes that we've done so far was on Near Dark, where I don't really like that movie, but Ed Pettit loves that movie, and Rob was kind of like neutral on the movie, and I'm on the other side. I'm just like, this is great. We're having a wonderful discussion. Nobody's calling anybody an asshole. And we're just like, okay, well, why do you like it? Well, how about this? How did this strike you? We'll take this little aspect of this, And it wasn't like Ed was just sitting there trying to convince me that I'm wrong. It was just like, I really like this thing, and we would talk about these things, and it was just one of the best discussions I've ever had.
And I love stuff like that. And for the record, I'm a massive Near Dark fan.
It's got one of the, I can't say one of the best actors. It has so many great actors in there between Henriksen and Jeanette Goldstein.
The Paxton.
And fucking Bill Paxton, man. You can't get better than that.
All the cartoon hearts are above my head right now just thinking about that movie. Like, I love it so much. But that's the thing, like, when you have adults in a room and who respect each other, you know, it's all good. Like, you know, I adore you and I respect you fiercely, and it's okay if you don't like it. Like, I wish more people would realize that. Like, just be an adult about stuff. Like, it's okay. Like, in fact, why would anybody want to be at a cocktail party where everybody's exactly the same and everybody has exactly the same opinions and views? That's boring. That is so boring. And it's also like, you're never going to grow as a person like that either. Like, I'm somebody who I'm always like, I want to be better. Like, I want to grow as a human and be the best person I can be, usually with a lot of follies and failures along the way, but that's how we learn. But by doing that, it's healthy to talk to people who aren't like you and have different opinions than you. And even people who they are like tribe to you and they're brothers and sisters to you, you're still going to have differences, and that's good. That's healthy. You should, you know, like if we were all clones, like it's just a circle jerk and not in a good way.
No milk bottle to fill up.
No. Oh my God. I just learned something new. I was just thought it was like people just letting the seeds go to the wind, you know?
Or there's the cookie game.
I have to ask, what is the cookie game?
You deposit the seed on the cookie, and the last person who has yet to get their rocks off has to eat the cookie.
Ew.
I don't know if that's true or if just one of those urban legends or what, you know, if it's like a Cleveland steamer kind of a thing or where that comes from, but...
You know, weirdly enough, this actually does bring to mind a very surreal conversation I once had at a karaoke bar years ago, where this woman was hella drunk, and she was telling me she had dated a guy that my husband and I kind of know, and I guess he was involved in the OTO. And she was super drunk, and she's like, and she was Southern too, which made it even better. She's real Southern, so she's like, so they had this cookie that they make with semen. But they have to burn it so you don't get the AIDS, like, or something like that.
Oh my God.
I know. And I'm just like, oh my God, does she have a designated driver? And I barely knew this woman too, which made it even better. I'm like, I'm in hell. I'm not a fan of karaoke either. So it was a lot of, you know, you got drunk college girls singing, you know, Baby Got Back. Don't know what Sir Mix-a-Lot did to deserve that to his legacy, but, you know, it is what it is. So, yes, the cookie game. Well, that's that could be the next Internet Award sensation.
Do you want to answer some burning listener questions?
Yes. What are the people? Let's speak to our people here. I should be doing Paul Stanley. I'd be like, all right, people.
It's question time.
Because, you know, we ain't going to answer no rock and roll questions from no. I don't know. I've had a cold. I'm not even.
Do you know what Ace Frehley's favorite film from 2020 was?
Parasite Lady.
That's right. Sorry, I should have said 2019. My bad.
True story. When that movie started getting buzz, every single time I think about it, that's what I would get in my head. Is that Parasite? Yeah, which a great song. So I was like, cool. This movie's gonna be good.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right. So Brian O'Mara writes, sorry if someone has asked this already, but what are some of your favorite movies from the podcast that you probably would have never seen without having created it?
That's an excellent question. I love that question.
Of course, I don't put any thought into these questions, even though I've had like 2 months to prepare. I'm just like, hey, let's go off the cuff so I can give some really shitty answers.
The show has introduced so many great movies to my sphere. Some that I knew about, some like the Intacto episode. That one I went into kind of cold. And I loved that movie. That movie was like, it's so underrated. I think more people should hear that episode and seek that movie out, because that one's great. Recently, you and I did the Marco Ferreri Seeds of Man with Kat, and that made me want to just seek out every Marco Ferreri movie, especially after getting to hear Kat, who is an expert, on his filmography and on the man. So those two definitely come to my mind.
Yeah, Seeds of Man was great. Seeds of Man was one where I had been wanting to watch it for the longest time, and this just kind of forced me to watch it, which is perfect. An American Hippie in Israel is one that I don't think I would have seen had it not been for the podcast, and I'm very glad that I was able to watch that movie. Have you seen that one before?
I haven't, and it's on my list. It's actually in the Bizarro book. Skip wrote about it.
Oh, cool.
And so if anybody loves that movie, buy our book.
That seems like it's going to be a common refrain this episode.
Please. I said please.
Support people that are involved with the podcast if you can, and please, definitely you need to check out Heather's book because it is fantastic.
Yay, thank you.
Of course. I was just saying earlier that I like that I'm to the point in my life where I don't feel like I have to beg people for the things that they've put their hard work into, and now I can actually start to support people a little bit more. So it's like a friend of mine, this writer named Red Fright, he put out a book recently, and it was just like, okay, cool. Not only will I give you the paltry $5 that you're looking for your book, but I will go ahead and give you $10. Or Leon Chase, his band Uncle Leon and the Alibis, they put out a live album, and it's just like, you're asking for $5 for this on Bandcamp. I will give you $20 because you are my friend and I want to support your work. And it's just, finally I'm getting to that point in my life where I can be like, not saying, Heather, can you send me a PDF of the Bizarro Encyclopedia?
Oh, no, that's it. See, that kind of support's awesome, but I think that's actually kind of something else I was going to riff on. We were talking about the Rondos, is that, seriously, if people, like, for artists that you know and love, or even artists you don't know, but you love them, the best way to support them isn't some award or anything like that. Like, buy their stuff. If the coffers are low, hey, we're creatives. We understand. Most of us are usually broke. But, just talking about it on a podcast or tweeting about it or making a post, just being like, oh, wow, this looks cool. Check this person out. All of that is always so appreciative and appreciative. And I can't talk. It's appreciated. And we appreciate it. And that's the best thing to do. And, no, I love that. And I'm going to check out Leon's band. Leon's awesome.
Yeah, his band's pretty fantastic as well. Very, very good beer drinking band.
I like beer and I like music. I'll have to check that out.
Another one that I don't think I would have seen except for the podcast, and it's one that you and I talked about, was Belladonna of Sadness.
Oh my God. I generally love every episode we've done. Truly, for all of them for various reasons. But that one is actually, it's got to be one of my favorites. That one was so much fun, and I love that movie. And that to me just makes it even more of a gift knowing that, like, we got to kind of, like, Kat and I as the Hells Bells collective got to bring that to your sphere, because that movie is just it's such a gift.
I mean, that had been on my radar a little bit, but it was just like, yeah, I'll get to it. So much of this show, especially over the last, I'd say 2 years, has just been me saying, all right, fuck it. We're going to do an episode on this. It's going to make me watch this movie. So I have to see this so I can talk about it, and have to learn more about the history and all of these things so that I can try to speak intelligently about things. If there is history to be uncovered, sometimes it's really difficult to find articles or making ofs or any of those kind of things. But, and then even if that doesn't happen, just the discussion is so much fun.
One of the things I think that has always been such a strong suit for the projection booth is there's the variety of films that have been covered since the beginning, because it's always certainly like obviously like really big, and big budget titles that you've covered over the years. But there's never been a fear to dive into some very obscure waters. And even when like, and I know this too, because like sometimes I'll write an article about a movie, like I did one on the Black Room a few years ago, which is a movie I absolutely love. And I don't know if it did that well, like as far as clicks or shares or anything, because it's not that well known. But that's not why, any of us do what we do. We do it out of love and out of getting to have the experience of it. And that's what I love, especially when you do something that is such a deep dive, because it's obviously not clickbait, because how many people are going to seek out Star Wars versus Seeds of Man, right? But that's not why any of us do what we do. We do it out of love.
Exactly. Yeah. I wish for everybody that listened to the Demolition Man episode would listen to the Case for a Rookie Hangman episode. And
that's a hint.
And the thing too that I like is that we're living in this era where we talk about Case for a Rookie Hangman. I'm sorry. I'm just like, that's another one where I wouldn't have necessarily watched it except for the show. We're in this era now where we can talk about what was essentially an obscure film or written about very little and very underseen. And then, we get to be part of the Blu-ray release of it. And it's just like, okay, good. So now more people have an opportunity to see these movies. And I, like when we talked about Never Too Young to Die, that wasn't any place. I was like, I think I had an encoded VHS rip, and now it's out on Blu-ray. I was like, okay, finally. So I just always hope that some of these movies that are hard to find now, or were hard to find when we were talking about them, are now much easier to find. I mean, again, going back to this afternoon's discussion of L'Amour Fou, yeah, I saw a beat the shit VHS type of rip on that, and I hope to God one of these days that comes out on Blu-ray just for preservation purposes, if not anything else.
That's the thing I think that is so vital, and one of the most vital things about the show is that talking about these films is, to me, if it's not as its own thing as an act of preservation, it's laying down the field for it, because there have been so many films that just you and I have talked about that still languish and are kind of in this, like a Smoker, which is one we did years ago, which is a really great, very just evocative, just one of a kind kind of adult film. And to my knowledge, the print, if this is even in print anymore, which I don't know, when we did it, the only copy that was out legally was cut by 40 minutes.
Well, and then Water Power is still butchered to shit. And like, where's the Blu-ray of that? And I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll ever happen for a variety.
Yeah,
for a variety of reasons. But or Seeds of Man. There's so many films that we have discussed that really just need a great release and need to be restored. Just or actually, speaking of Zulawski. Like, because we did,
on the Silver Globe.
On the Silver Globe. God, I hate it when your brain, locks up. That's one of the hazards people don't talk about a lot in our field. It's like when you've talked about so many different movies and written about them over the years, sometimes it's all kind of like that scene of Free Jack, or,
Oh, you talk Free Jack and I perk up.
I love it. I actually make a reference to Free Jack in an article I have coming out.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that one on the Silver Globe's not, they're bootlegs of it, but that's a film that's one that has to be cleaned up. Like, otherwise you're missing a lot of stuff in the film. But yet, Queen Kong is on Blu-ray.
I actually have some good news about, on the Silver Globe that I just read the other day. So Robert Hubbard, who was on the Phase 4 episode, he is one of the best researchers that I know of, and he's always sending me little things of, hey, this is coming out. So he was sending me, hey, this deluxe box set of Phase 4 is coming out. But he also sent me a note the other day that the Lunar trilogy that on the Silver Globe, remember how it was Zulawski's, his uncle who wrote the book that On the Silver Globe was kind of based on?
Yeah.
That is actually getting translated and released. So finally we'll be able to read kind of the source material for that.
Oh, fucking A. God, everything that has that man's name on it should be in print, accessible, and just put out there for everybody. Because just what a tremendous artist.
Oh, it looks like it's already available through Simon & Schuster for $18. So it's got a shit-ass cover, but I'll take it.
Hey, we'll take it. Any on the Silver Globe's better than none on the Silver Globe.
A lot of the Czechtember titles that I'd never seen before have been just welcome additions to, like, just the, what I've been introduced to. There've just been so many good films that I've been introduced to where I'm just so glad to have been able to see it. And one that doesn't immediately pop to mind, but I'm so glad that, again, I made myself watch it for the show, was Peter Lorre's The Lost One. I really like that film. That was such a joy to talk about and such a powerful movie.
So that's one I have to see. But again, that's kind of the cool thing about the show is that you can look at an episode and be like, man, I haven't seen this film. I'm not even familiar with it. All the more reason to seek it out. Both the episode and the movie.
So Brian's part 2, which he must be very intent on because he asked it twice in different places, was we want to hear from Mrs. White and what she thinks about the podcast, movies, etc. So let's go ahead, Heather, and I'm going to take a little break here and we can hear from Mrs. White, my wife, Andrea White.
Oh, yay!
Please tell me your name and what you do.
Andrea White, and I'm a social worker for the state.
How did you and I meet?
Yahoo personal ads. Online 22 years ago. Next week.
How often do we agree on movies?
About 80% of the time.
Were you a film fan before we met?
To some degree. I had a lot of movies in my collection. I used to work at a psychiatric hospital and I'd take movies in to entertain the patients. So I had a wide variety.
Have I changed the way that you think about movies?
Somewhat. A little bit more tolerant of the effed up stuff.
How would you define an effed up movie?
Stuff that makes my skin crawl at times.
Yeah.
I still don't like Jodorowsky. Sorry, honey. Things I would have never thought I'd like. Interested in watching much more subtitled movies.
Are there any movies that we both enjoy? And then Brian added, perhaps a romantic film.
We don't like romantic films that much. Sci-fi, blockbusters, action.
Dune.
A little bit of creature features. I'm a big fan of Godzilla and shark movies.
Any particular shark movies?
The Meg. Yeah. Jaws.
Have we ever watched a movie together that gave you second thoughts about me?
Jodorowsky. What was that one? The Holy Mountain. Not a fan.
What are some of your other interests?
I read voraciously. Animals. Yeah, I read animals. Yeah. Right now I'm reading a lot of sci-fi fantasy books. Mysteries, detective stories. Used to read a lot of true crime. Try to get away from that a little bit more, though.
Honey, would you love me more if I did a true crime podcast?
No.
Okay.
It's too much when life and what you're reading is too similar.
And then Brian adds, thank you for sharing Mike with the podcast community. I'm sure we've taken a lot of his free time.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like being the wife of a podcaster?
Can be lonely, especially if there's interviews 5 days a week for hours at a time, or podcast recordings. His calendar fills up faster than mine does.
Well, thank you, Andrea. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
It's not easy having a good time, and it's not cheap either. Every week, the projection booth brings you a new show, possibly even two, focusing on all genres of cinema. If you've sat through the 7-hour Conan episode, the 6-hour Star Wars episode, or even the hour-long Superman episode, you know that Mike and his co-host put forth a lot of work into researching the movies, tracking down the interview subjects, and putting together one of the best podcasts on the internet. Now I'm asking you if you can repay all that hard work by giving back to to the projection booth. The show has a Patreon fundraiser at Patreon. That's patreon.com/projection booth. You can donate as little as $1 a month. That's $12 a year. At least 50 great shows and 2 terrible ones. That's the price of 2 matinee tickets. Now, isn't the projection booth worth it? Once again, that's patreon.com/projection booth. Donate today. It's the right thing to do.
Let me ask you a question. Are you getting enough? I bet you'd love more, right? Well, AdamandEve.com wants to give you more with 10 free gifts. First, you'll get a sexy surprise for her. Second, a specially selected toy for him. And third, a little something we know you'll both enjoy. Plus, you'll get 6 full-length adult movies on DVD. And number 10, free shipping on your entire order. So what do you have to do to get your 10 free gifts? It's not hard. Just go to AdamandEve.com and select any one item. It could be an adventurous new toy, sexy piece of lingerie, or anything you desire. Just enter offer code BOOTH at checkout, and you'll get all 10 free gifts. Go check out AdamandEve.com today. Select one item and get 10 free gifts, including free shipping when you enter offer code BOOTH. That's BOOTH at AdamandEve.com.
We are back, and we're talking about Ego Fest number 9. So we were in the middle of questions. I hope people enjoyed hearing my wife put me down repeatedly. At least that's my guess, because I haven't recorded the episode yet.
I'm sure it's going to be nothing but love.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a love fest.
Lots of love. And there may be a few things of like, oh, God, there's that one time he made me watch this horrible movie.
Oh, yeah. She'll never forgive me for The Holy Mountain. So let's take another question from John Maddow. I've always wondered how the Czechtember tradition originated. What made you choose that particular country to dedicate a month on instead of another one? Do you plan to continue it indefinitely, or will you eventually switch to another country's cinema? So Czechtember comes out of my love of Eastern European cinema, and I noticed that the Czechs seem to put out some really fucking fantastic films. This year, I'm actually doing a month dedicated to Polish films and one to French films. And then, we're still doing Czechtember, and I think we'll just keep doing that until we run out of good Czech films to talk about, and that's going to be a long damn time.
Which is awesome. Though, Mike, I think the problem with Czechtember is, are any of those films SAG? Or were they even made by people in SAG? Like, this is a serious question.
It's ridiculous.
I was very lucky. I took a class when I was in college with this guy, Herbie Eagle, who I think he was actually friends with Dusan Makavejev, who I knew was Yugoslavian, not Czechoslovak, but he introduced us to some great Eastern European films, and I just really loved what I saw. I loved Closely Watched Trains. There were so many good things that I saw, and that's one area where I personally want to explore it more and see more of these films. So it's really, just kind of like the whole show overall. It's just all about, my ego and what I want to do and what movies I want to see. So fuck yeah, I'll keep doing Czechtember.
I think that's awesome. And that's a great question, John. So thank you for sending that in.
Noel Thingvall asks, what are some of your favorite unproduced screenplays, and are there any you hope to cover on the show? I don't tend to read screenplays these days just for kicks. I tend to read them almost exclusively for the show. I think the one screenplay that I read that I absolutely loved, we actually talked about it a little bit on the Mega Man episode. It was a version of I Am Legend that didn't get made. That was a lot of fun, and I wish it had gotten made, especially over the Will Smith version of I Am Legend. But yeah, I haven't read a screenplay just for fun in a long time, so I can't really speak to that one. Sorry, Noel.
I would, of course, I haven't read it, but one screenplay I would love to read and to see it maybe come out in some form or fashion is, I believe it was called RPM, and it was the script that Steven Sadian wrote with Jerry Stahl in the late 90s, I believe mid-90s, and it got lost for years. But there is apparently a version that has been found, maybe not, I'm hoping. But that's a cool question. That's always been like something that has like really impressed me with your like research skills, Mike, is you're like super sleuth with those scripts. Because I've done shows where you're like, okay, here's the folder, and it's like, holy shit, like you're like the Indiana Jones over here of like going down to the Incan ruins and finding lost scripts. And
that belongs in a museum.
Just imagine if I lived in LA and could actually get into like the Academy libraries and stuff. I'd be fucking dangerous.
That would be awesome. That would be. There's got to be some kind of government grant or something. Well, not under this administration. Who knows? No. Hopefully, maybe for hopefully the 2020 election goes well. We get some kind of progressive in there. Maybe we could start getting some good grants again for the arts. But that would be cool, because that's the thing. Like, I really feel like, and I can say this objectively with no ego, I feel like you should be getting like every other commentary gig that comes out with film, because the level of research and hard work you put into like every episode of Projection Booth is more than what I think would people even fathom doing for anything. Like, it's just, there's so much love and intelligence and hard work and savvy. I said it. Savvy.
King in the castle, king in the castle. Have a chair, I have a chair.
Well, I appreciate your compliment. Thank you very much.
No, it's true. Plus, it's Ego Fest. We can do that. We can pay all the compliments.
As I'm sitting here, I was thinking that Ronnie Rocket and One Saliva Bubble would be fun to talk about one of these days. I really love both of those scripts. One Saliva Bubble always reminds me of a Richard Brodigan story, the Sombrero Fallout. Just this whole idea of one simple little thing causing this whole chain of events. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Keyshawn's The Big Dig, where one lunatic with a jackhammer is able to just basically destroy Tel Aviv because people start supporting him, not knowing that he's a madman. They just think it's a public works project. But with Sombrero Fallout, it's a sombrero falls from the sky, and then all of the things that happen after that. So the fallout of the fallout, as it were. And then One Saliva Bubble. It's been a while since I've read it, but I remember that being also pretty wild. I mean, anytime I get to talk about David Lynch, I'd be more than happy to do it. So just have to find a way to work that into conversation.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to read it.
That one, luckily, is fairly easy to find. And plus, since you know me, I can probably get you a copy.
Wow. Come on, Projection Booth perks.
The one thing that I also love a lot that's related to scripts are work prints. And I've always wanted to see, like, there are certain work prints where it's just like, I want to see that. So, sorry to sound like Horseshack there, but the one that comes to mind the most with that, and I'm looking at the script right now across the way from me, is The 13th Warrior, which was originally Eaters of the Dead. That was the Crichton novel it was based on, and then the John McTiernan version of it was Eaters of the Dead, and then apparently either a producer recut it, or they said that it tested poorly, so they reshot and added a whole bunch of stuff. And personally, I love The 13th Warrior, so I would just be very curious to see what the Eaters of the Dead cut looks like.
So that's kind of like the intriguing thing when you deal with work prints is like what gets excised and what doesn't. Like I remember as a teenager when I first heard about like, ooh, this is the work print edition of something, being just like, ooh, it was almost like getting like an underground peek into something. I think the first one I ever heard about was the work print for Return of the Living Dead. I'm a huge fan. I love that movie, and I super loved it as a teenager. It's a great movie, I think, to love as a teen. Like I love it now as an adult, too. But yeah, just hearing like, oh, there's a work print, which I've never actually seen the whole work print of it to this day. But just hearing about it, I remember seeing some screen grabs of it, I think, on a website back in the day, and just being like, oh, And of course, the quality is always very bootleggy, so it makes it look even more just like kind of forbidden in a way.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'll be talking about later this year, actually, is Nightbreed and all the different cuts of that and some of the work prints that are available. Because I saw Nightbreed when it was at the movie theater, I think. I mostly remember just like doing aisle checks on it because I was an usher at the time. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen this part, I saw this part, and I think I might have actually watched it all the way through once. But I just know it's one of those troubled productions. So I'm using this as an excuse to dive into the troubles and see all those different versions of it.
Oh, right on. Well, somebody that was in, and it was just like kind of like a cameo, but there were two writers that were in the the original Midian cut of it as part of the Underworld characters, and that was, you're gonna love this, John Skipp and Craig Spector, who at the time, Skipp and Spector were partners, and they wrote a lot of books together. But yeah, so, and I don't know if you know this, but John Skipp also wrote a book with me called The Bizarro Encyclopedia of Film Volume 1.
You're like the Paul Harvey of this podcast. I love it.
I'm trying to get more comfortable with plugging my work more, because I find, like, I don't know if you've ever felt like this with the show over the years, is that, like, I find with most people that are creatives, like most of us, it feels kind of weird to pimp ourselves out.
Oh, yeah.
And I've struggled with that, but I'm trying to be better about it because honestly, I mean, we work hard. We should be proud of our work and, not be ashamed to do that. So I'm using this as an exercise.
We work hard for the money. So hard for it, honey. We work hard for the money, so you better treat us right.
Except money has quotation marks around it.
Do it all for the cookie.
Yeah, the cookie. No, gross. Wait, I don't want to do it for the cookie. Paul Stanley pops up and goes, yeah!
So our friend Morris has an Ego Fest question.
Oh, we love Morris.
Morris is fantastic.
He is the
so
best.
Morris says, okay, so my Ego Fest question is, how do you compartmentalize? I can't even use the word. How do you compartmentalize your approach to film watching and preparation if you have multiple shows on the go? Oh my God.
That's an awesome
Do I ever? I try to watch the movie that we're going to talk about very early. If I can watch a movie like 6 months before we do a show, I'll do that. And then I'll have it in the back of my head for that whole time. And then I will watch it again, usually like a day before or the day of the podcast, if not a couple days before. Because I try to write the outline a couple days before, and that requires just me sitting down and taking notes through the whole thing. But yeah, if I can do that initial watch, and that's another reason why I try to plan this stuff out so far ahead, is just because I always like to watch stuff at least twice, if not more. But that doesn't always work out. And then as far as compartmentalizing, I mean, sometimes things will overlap. I try not to remember things from one movie being in another movie if I can help it, but I do try to do like the theme months and stuff, just so I can try to have that cross dialogue between things.
I've known you for years, and I never actually really knew like your process until now. So thank you, Morris.
Now you know my secrets.
Your secrets, yes.
I read your book. I know all your tricks.
To me, that's always kind of cool, because I feel like everybody has their own little rituals with preparation for whether it's podcasts or writing work or whatever. So Very interesting.
I try not to read stuff too early, so I'm like always looking at like, okay, what's the show that's like 3 weeks from now? So like in a couple weeks we're going to be doing They Shoot Horses, Don't They? So I just read the McCoy book, finished it up yesterday, and then I'm starting to read the script, and then in a few days I'll start to read the articles, and so hopefully it'll work out so that like the day of recording, I'll be finishing the last article and be able to just kind of jump right in to the discussion and have it all fresh in my mind, because my mind is like a sieve. And I don't know if you're like this with your writing projects, but with me, when I write stuff or when I podcast, I basically take it all, spit it all out, and then just say, okay, on to the next thing. And then I forget a lot of the things that I've said or learned, which is bad. I hope to retain some of it, but I feel like this is my opportunity to say everything that I want to say, and then I move to the next project.
Right. No, I completely understand. When you move on, you sort of forget a lot of what you will say in a podcast, because I've actually...
Oh, fuck yeah.
I had somebody, when Kat and I did the first Hell's Bells, which was on, we did a 2-parter on Radley Metzger, and which my first ever projection booth episode was a Radley film.
That's right. The opening of Misty Baker.
That's right. So you brought me in with the big guns, which is amazing. But apparently, in, I believe it was episode 2, I was ranting about a writer, a film critic named, I think it was Janet Maslin, who gave a really shitty review of a Borovchik film. I don't know how I got started on that in a Radley Metzger episode, but
it's easy to talk about Borovchik when you're around Kat, though.
Right. Well, we both love him. So, and apparently I threatened to peg this woman with the DVD copy of Labette. And I forgot about that completely. And somebody had posted about the show, and they were like, "Oh my god, Heather threatened to peg this woman with a DVD." And I was like, "Oh shit, I did say that, didn't I?" It's like, "Oh my god, I'm a monster."
In internet parlance, let me say that I can give people a pro tip, which is, don't come at me, bro. Don't come at me or email me and think that I know what the fuck you're talking about if you're suddenly referencing a podcast I did last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 years ago. I mean, we're celebrating 9 years on this Ego Fest. So I've been talking shit for 9 years. So if you come back with something that I said in like the Stuntman episode, I'm not going to have any fucking idea what you're talking about without you giving me some good context. I can't believe you said that blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you even talking about?
We don't script these things out. And I can't imagine anybody, like, I know there are some people that do when they do like commentary work. Some will actually script things out to a T.
King in the castle, king in the castle.
Which I mean, if that works for them, I can't even imagine. I cannot fathom working like that personally. If somebody could work like that, great. I'm not judging them. It's just not for me. But, you know, but also it's just like, yeah, I mean, you want things to sound, I mean, to me, like if something sounds conversational, whether it's podcast or a DVD commentary or whatever, that's more engaging because, again, it's that whole thing going back to you're talking with the people, not at them. And if somebody's talking at you, I kind of think, you know, for me at least, like part of your brain shuts down a little bit. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not being treated as an equal. Why should I listen to this person? Speaking of talking, we have another question from Darren Williams. Do you ever re-listen to old episodes having reevaluated your feelings on the film covered?
The only time I re-listen to old episodes are when I'm prepping for like a follow-up episode, or if I've been asked to be on another person's podcast to talk about the same movie that I've already talked about. And that's just basically to refresh my memory quite a bit. So like, we've done 2 episodes, believe it or not, we've done 2 episodes on Manos, the Hands of Fate. So when we did the second episode, I went back and I listened to that first one just to like refresh what I said and where I was coming from and just all those things. Mostly for you, my dear listeners, because I don't want to repeat myself. I grew up with a mother who loves to tell the same stories over and over and over again, and I try not to be that person. I'm sure I've repeated myself tons of times on this show, but I really try not to. So I'm not going to be like, oh, well, with Manos, blah, 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 or any of that kind of stuff. Like, tell the same story, have the same opinion, the same anecdotes, any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's pretty much, or like when I guess a little bit higher echelon of filmmaking is when we talked about The Other Side of the Wind. So I'd done tons of research. Justin had done tons of research on Other Side of the Wind. So when we finally got to see the movie and talk about it, I went back and I listened to that first episode. But otherwise, I hate the sound of my own voice. I'm not about to go back and listen to something for kicks or just, the whole idea of reevaluating my feelings on a film that we've covered. I know what my feelings were, so I'm okay doing that without having to use the podcast for a crutch on that one.
That makes sense. I don't know anybody who likes the sound of their own voice.
I work for a guy who really likes the sound of his own voice. At least that's what I have to surmise.
Oh, God.
Because he sure talks a lot of shit.
I bet he's a real cool dude, too. Darren also asked, if you could have Tarantino on an episode to talk about the Reservoir Dogs situation, would you do it?
If I could have Tarantino on an episode, I would probably do it. It would be very awkward, I think. After talking so much shit about him for so many years. But I wouldn't turn him down as a guest. I think he would be a very hostile interview, let's say. I sent him a message on Facebook a few years ago saying, hey, once you're done with that 10th movie, if you ever want to come on the podcast, you're more than welcome.
That's amazing. I think he likes the sound of his own voice.
Definitely.
I would venture to guess that.
I can't imagine having a two-way conversation with that guy.
It'd be weird. That would be very weird. He also, you could ask about his opinion, because he was once quoted saying that the only good classic adult film was Hot Summer of the City. Oh. He said none of them, that was the only one that was good, and the rest of them weren't good.
I don't tend to agree with that.
I would very much disagree with that. So I'm going to have to peg him with a DVD copy of that. I kid. But
are you wearing socks right now, Heather?
Oh, gross! Ew, don't. That scene in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh,
I'm always. To me, that's the most horrific thing in that movie. I'm like screaming at the screen. I'm like, girl, no, get your foot out of his mouth.
I'm just waiting for like all the Me Too stuff to finally fucking hit with him, because it just feels like he's dodged a bullet. I know Sony's got his back on a lot of stuff. I think Sony's got the protection out for him and for Bryan Singer big time.
Ooh, talk about some Silkwood shower action. See, this is why I love Clu Gulager. And that maybe seemed like a bizarre segue, but Clu Gulager has never failed me as an artist. I don't think he's ever gotten inappropriate with women in a way that would be a Me Too movement. And he's the man. So I think people, if you're listening, instead of supporting artists that are icky and not in a cool way, like Klaus Kinski, who could be icky, but I love him. I can't help it. Love Clu Gulager. So, just saying.
Do you happen to write about any Clu Gulager films in the Bizarro Film Encyclopedia?
You know, I haven't, but we are working on Volume 2, so...
And I believe Volume 1 is now available through Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com.
Mike, it's funny you mentioned that. Yes, it is. Actually, you know, it's funny. On our opening Misty Beethoven episode, which was the first... We also talked about Misty Beethoven the musical. And I shit you not, this is the amazing thing about life and how we're all connected, is... One of the people that wrote the songs for that movie was John Skipp. Seriously.
Such a small world.
I know. Isn't that crazy? And so, yeah, because Veronica Hart and K. Jane Hamilton directed that one, and they're old friends. John actually has 2 kids with Kelly Nichols.
Wow.
The great classic adult film actress. Beautiful lady. Ridiculously pretty. Well, so is Jane Hamilton. So, yeah. So it is a small world after all.
Was Kelly Nichols, am I remembering right that she was in Roommates?
She was.
Oh, man. Yeah, she was fantastic in that. And I was so glad that we covered that movie as well. That was such a great one.
That's another one I'm very proud of. And the fact that we got the Rialto Report stamp of approval.
Oh, yeah.
With that one, that meant a lot to me because Ashley was on the episode, but Ashley's, just a classic gentleman, and just the amount of work they do on their show and on that website is a total gift of, I mean, you don't even have to love like that era of film, but just if you love history and human history, it's always, they do everything with just such sensitivity and insight. So big fan of Rialto for sure.
I could see Rialto Report, possibly getting a Rondo Award.
I imagine like a lot of the old guard for monster movie type stuff would be shaking their pearls and their hankies about that. Oh my. Like I remember seeing an old horror host. I won't mention his name, but he actually did a good show. So but he presented the movie The Devil's Nightmare, the Erica Blank horror movie.
Okay.
And it was the edited cut. And he actually, like, when he referred to, like, the stuff that was cut out of it, he literally was like, oh, there was some nasty stuff in that. Like that. And it's like, so boobies are terrible, but it's okay to see, like, the dead?
Right.
Like, murder and corpses are fine, but do not show me a titty, damn it.
Never. Jesus.
So it's so weird. It's funny because I've actually seen, I think, more issues with women in some facets of horror fandom than I ever have with people that were, fans of, say, like, erotica, like erotica or, the classic adult film era.
Right.
A lot of those guys were fine. Like, if anything, they're like, oh, cool, women are into this. Like, they love it. As opposed to like, oh god, a girl like Dario Argento.
You sounded a lot like, oh god, what's that? He was like a pink leopard that was on.
Oh, Snagglepuss!
Yes, you sounded a lot like Snagglepuss at that moment.
Snagglepuss. Oh my god, he's fabulous. Serving Snagglepuss realness. Oh god! Oh, that's a compliment.
Oh, of course.
Now my ego is boosted. We have a quadrology of questions from Zach Clute. I hope I'm saying your name right, Zach.
No relation to Shannon, I imagine.
Shannon Clute.
Shannon Clute, one of the co-hosts of one of my favorite podcasts, Out of the Past.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which has not been around for years and years, but yeah, Shannon Clute, him and Rich Edwards hosting one of the best film noir podcasts that you could possibly ever listen to. Heavily recommended.
Have they been nominated for a Rondo?
No.
That's the only thing. Are they with SAG? Are they at least with SAG?
No SAG. Well, you know what? Shannon's been on TCM before, but no, I don't think he's ever been in a movie, so nope.
Well,
and
sir.
Rich has as well. Rich actually ended up teaching some classes through TCM.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, seriously, that's super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Those guys are great. And yeah, their podcast is fantastic. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't covered as many film noirs as I would like to, because they kind of really put me to shame. But one of these days people will forget about Out of the Past, and I'll be able to just take all their good ideas and say that they were my own.
Yes,
speaking of
Tommy
Tarantino.
Camp a Tommy Camp in every city. Oh, goodness. Well, Zach, his first question is, who was a guest that you were surprised that you got to interview for the show?
I think the biggest surprises for me have been some of the bigger names. Ed Harris, definitely one. Stacy Keach and Bruce Dern, I think, have been the most surprising. As well as, I would say, some of the ones where you're just like, there's no way I'm ever going to hear back from this person. So the director of Me and Him, that was really surprising that we managed to have such a good interview. And I was just like, there's no way she's ever going to get back to me. But sure enough, yeah, I would say for like bigger names and stuff where you're just like, there's no fucking way that these people will ever talk to me. When I got word back through Ed Harris's person that he was willing to talk about Glengarry Glen Ross, I was like, fucking A, this is pretty awesome.
That's something that you've wowed me with, is like some of the people you've got to talk with over the years. I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I would have to give a shout out to my favorite. Now, obviously I'm biased, but my favorite interview that you've done on an episode I've been attached to was you got to interview Steven Sadian.
Thanks to you, my friend. If I had known you, I don't think I ever would have gotten anywhere near him.
But me and Steven got to connect because of you. Yeah, because years ago, this was all spurred because I can't remember what episode we were recording, but when we were wrapping up, I was rattling off to you about just like, oh my God, I love Steven Sadian, and just how much I love his films, and just I was going on, and you had located an email address for him, and you were like, hey, I think I have an email address for him. Do you want me to let him know, like, hey, my friend Heather's a writer and she's a fan of your work, and if, connect that? And I was like, oh my God, absolutely. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that for years, like, Steven was MIA. Nobody knew what happened to him. Like, and so he did, and he read some of my work, and we hit it off, and he's a hell of a nice guy. And I just thought the interview, you asked him all the right questions. He is the best talker in the world, and that one was great. Also, your interview with Andy Robinson for the Charlie Varick episode was amazing.
He was so much fun to talk to. Such a sweet man. My goodness.
That man is salt of the earth. I would help him move his furniture if he asked me to, just listening to how sweet he was to you. And a friend of mine got to go to a convention later that year and meet him, and she mentioned, like, the projection booth. That episode, she's like, oh, my friend Heather was on that, and she's a big fan of yours. And he was like, oh, I love the projection booth. Like, he obviously had such a great time. He immediately, like, his face lit up talking about it. So obviously you made a wonderful impression on him.
I had to say one person that it's just one of those, like, Andy Robinson has been known for playing such sleazebags like Uncle Frank and, the Scorpio Killer and Garrick and all these characters. And he was super nice. The other guy who I talked to who was just the biggest sweetheart in the world was Anthony James, who, if you don't know the name, you know the face. And my God, I when you pull up his name, it just says like creepy, sleazy, oily villain. It's like, yeah, that's what he's known for. But my God, what a sweet man.
Oh my God. I don't know if you heard my heart race.
It sounded like it jumped, through your throat a little bit there.
It did. I love him so much. Anthony James is the man. Like, oh my God. It's crazy this comes up because earlier today I heard that song from In the Heat of the Night, Foul Owl on the Prowl, which is such a great song. And I love him in that scene where he's, just kind of like tapping his foot to the Foul Owl on the Prowl. Like, oh God, it's so good. Also, his turn in the music video for Poison's Fallen Angel. Holy shit. Oh my God. I have made friends watch a music video by the band Poison just because Anthony James is in it. He plays a sleazy agent. Oh my God, he's a man. Oh.
Yeah, there are some episodes that we've done where it's just an interview, and it's like, I wish I could have turned this into an episode. Like with him, it's like, I would have made the excuse of like, let's do High Plains Drifter and just, slot that interview right in there. But it's just like, getting all that stuff together. And really, I mean, he had a book to promote, and it was just like, okay, let's just talk about the book. Same thing with like Bill Duke. It's like, okay, let's talk about the book Bill and just do that. But like Bill Duke is another one where it's just like, my God, I could talk about so many movies with this guy. I would love to do like a Predator episode and have Bill Duke on that,
Oh my God.
Or
yes.
Commando, I've interviewed so many people from Commando, but it's just like, no, I want more people. I want to talk to the whole cast of Commando, Give me David Patrick Kelly right now.
Yes. Oh God, if you did Predator, you could get Jesse Ventura.
Oh my God, that'd be great. We could talk about conspiracy theories. It'd be wonderful.
Yes. I love Jesse Ventura. His line in Predator, he's got my favorite lines in that movie, where it's just like, this stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaur like me. He's so, oh God, he's so good. His turn is it Mr. Or no, it's Captain Freedom and the Running Man. Oh God, his workout commercial is everything.
I was trying to get him and Jim Brown for that episode, was not able to do it, but
damn.
You know, the thing that people need to realize too, and I don't know if they know this, like I haven't gotten any of these smart ass comments lately, but it's like, you know, if I were to cover Minority Report, which we have covered, you know, I'm surprised I didn't get some jackass going, you should have tried to talk to Tom Cruise. It's like, you know what? I tried to talk to Tom Cruise. I will actually do that, try to find the right avenues to talk to people, because I'm not afraid of asking for an interview. It's just if you can find the right people to talk to and then get that interview. Like Max von Sydow. My God, would I love to talk to Max von Sydow. I would have talked to him about that movie. I would have talked to him about anything that guy wants to talk about. But, you know, I tried to reach out to him for the Strange Brew episode. So it's like, Max, you know, come on, baby, let's do this up. But it's a matter of like, it's not a matter of me asking, it's a matter of me getting a response.
That's the thing, though, that's always kind of like floored me, though, is that, you know, you've gotten some amazing gets, though. Like, that's, you know, I think the impressive factor's way bigger. I mean, honestly, I would much rather hear Anthony James or Bill Duke interviewed than Tom Cruise. Because, I mean, the thing is, like, you know, especially with a lot of the big current mainstream people, is I almost feel like they're so used to doing these very pat interviews where they're not even really proper interviews. You know, it's just all just like promo speak. So, you know, I think when you get to actually talk to people that are like more like character actors, you're going to get like the real meat. You're going to get a real person. But speaking of interviews, because Zach's next question is, who is the hardest guest for you to contact and nail down for an interview? Which kind of ties into the whole thing of like, well, why couldn't you get so-and-so?
The ones that come to mind are still the white whales for me. So, no offense to Colleen Camp for calling her a white whale, but she has just been so elusive. I would have loved to have talked to her for the Smile episode, for Death Game, gosh, for Apocalypse Now. It's just like, yeah, let's talk. And she has set up interviews and has stood me up a few times. So it's like after a while, you just don't even try anymore. Alan Sachs, you know, from personal experience that we've been trying to get Alan Sachs for about a year now. Still working on that. I have on my calendar about once a month, I have a little reminder that says, reach out to Alan Sachs. So one of these days that DeBedio episode will happen. I promise.
Yes, let's all cross our fingers. So, stranger things have happened,
yeah.
So.
And the last one that comes to mind is, and I'm going to butcher her name, Ulrike Adinger, who is a German director who actually was doing a residence in, God, was it New Hampshire or something? And I had a time set up to talk with her, and unfortunately that fell through. I was even looking into airfare to fly out to fucking New Hampshire and meet with her personally so I could do an interview, but just never happened. But that's how much I was willing to talk to her about her filmography, and especially about the film Freak Orlando.
That is dedication.
Or insanity. I'm not sure which it is.
The compulsion to do what we do is, if some would argue, insanity. I just think it's passion, drive, and hard work. Damn it. We're hard workers.
That's right. Midwestern pride.
That's right. Woo. And Zach's third question, who was your favorite to interview?
We've already talked about like Andy Robinson and Anthony James. I really enjoyed talking with Ginger Lynn. She was so much fun and so nice and such a sweet lady. I don't know if I can't put her in competition with Jane Hamilton, but just like, when I was able to speak to both of those ladies for an episode, was that the Smoker episode?
No, because I know Ginger's not in that.
Okay, what am I thinking of then? Was that, it wasn't Cleo Leo, was it?
It might have been Cleo. That sounds right, because I'm not on that episode.
Okay.
That was around that time.
Right.
That would make sense.
She was
but
so
yeah,
nice.
I love her. I love Ginger Lynn.
Oh, yeah.
That's heck, maybe we could get her someday. We'll do like a New Wave Hookers.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, well, I actually talked about getting my Gregory Dark, so maybe one of these days.
Oh my God.
That'd be nice, right?
That would be crazy. Oh, shit. Ooh, and I'm putting this out there. Wouldn't it be great if we could get Tito Larreva for that episode? Because the Plugs do so much of the music.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
And I love Tito Larreva. He's like a man amongst men. He's Tito. Come on.
Yeah.
I love him. But yeah, Ginger, she's somebody that just, even, when I'm in that interview and just other interviews I've seen her, she just is so bubbly. And she's just got like a light about her or something. You just instantly are like, I want to have a beer with this woman. She is fantastic.
Well, yeah, she's just like no bullshit either. So it was just like, yeah, ask me whatever the hell you want and I'll answer it. I was like, okay, great. Thank you. Because there are times like you may not have noticed this, but I don't tend to interview that many women on the show. And that's, again, not for lack of trying, but it's also because I always feel kind of weird because I know so many women have had to put up with so much shit over the years where I just don't want them thinking I'm another creepy fan who's going to like come on there and be like, oh, I think you're so sexy or anything like that. It's like, let me treat you like a person rather than a product or a piece of meat. But I know so many women have been treated like pieces of meat over the years that it's just like, I don't want to be perceived as another creepy fanboy.
Right, which is very, very awesome and sensitive of you. Though honestly, I think at this point, I mean, you've been doing the show for 9 years. You have great credentials. You have a whole body of work. And honestly, Mike, you never put yourself out there like that. Like, I don't think anybody, I think if somebody thought that about you, that probably would speak more about them than you. Like, cause that's the thing. Cause even like your approach to, having women on the show as co-hosts, like you're always fair. Like you've never once given me bullshit or condescension or any of that. I think you're just a good guy that just treats people, like people. Like if somebody's a smart, cool person, then let's go. I don't think you should ever be afraid of coming across like that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, that's why I've been on the show for so long. If you were condescending like dick.
Well, the only reason I ever have female co-hosts on the show is to bump my numbers with female listeners. And it's not working. So I might have to do like a No Chicks Allowed in year 10.
Well, see, the problem you made with that is you have me on there. Like, I'm like the woman that horrifies like everybody, I think.
The Susan Tyrell of co-hosts.
Oh my God. Okay. Now my ego, I love her. Like, I might as well have an altar in my house to her because she is my goddess. I love me some Suzu. It's like when people like Kat, our new Hell's Bells, which hasn't, gone live yet, but it's coming. We actually talk about like being a woman in writing and the film writing world and all that, and just always when people are like, I need a woman's voice, and I'm always like, I'm only one person. Like, I can't, like one person can't represent a whole group. I just got to be me. But Ginger Lynn is fantastic. Now I see another name and the outline that is another one of my favorite actors who I have loved since I was in junior high.
This is a guy who, like, any excuse I can possibly get, I try to get him back on the show just because I had such a great time talking with him the first time, and that's Garrett Graham.
I love Garrett Graham. I love him to the point where I taped off because I was a poor junior high kid. I remember taping off Bud the Chud.
Oh, yes.
Off of Cinemax when my parents were asleep, just because I was like, oh my God, Garrett Graham's in it.
He is so wonderful. And I wish that he had been on the Phantom of the Paradise episode, but I have talked to him a little bit about Beef. And God, yeah, just so much fun to talk to. I mean, the excuse I used to get him was Demon Seed, where he's in there for like, 5 minutes, then his head pops off. But he was game for it. And then, we got to talk about used cars and his roles in Star Trek and just so many things. He's just so great. And I love that, now we're doing a Twilight Zone 85 show, and he and his writing partner wrote a bunch of episodes. So it's like I am trying to be like, hey, let's get you back on the show and get you on Dreams for Sale and talk about these Twilight Zones.
Oh, that's so cool. Ooh, the episode that probably nobody's asking for but me is we could do National Lampoon's Class Reunion. And my other dream interview for that, though, would be if you could interview Blackie Dammit. Because that'd be amazing. I'm actually reading his biography right now, and I'm surprised that dude's penis still works, because holy shit, he planted that seed everywhere.
Too many cookies, huh?
Oh my god, all the cookies. All the cookies. But Blackie Dammit's, come on, it's great. He's in 9 Deaths of the Ninja, which is,
ooh, wow.
love that movie.
Nice.
Love that movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh my god, Mike. You have to, I just got a few words for you. Blackie Dammit as a Dr. Strangelove-esque villain, an eyeliner, with a pet monkey, and an accent that may be German? I don't know, but he's all like, the hostages will remain unharmed, and there's like dancing in it. It's so good. Like, it's ridiculous, but I love it. And he's great. He looks like Thomas Dolby on a Coke bender in it. Yeah, it's, I cannot give it higher praise than that.
You will address me as Mr. Brunt?
That's one thing that always cracks me up, is that people will talk to me and they'll be like, oh, well, you've seen all the movies, or there's so many movies that you've seen. I'm just like, man, the one thing that this has taught me, and that I've learned since I was a very young child, is that there are so many fucking movies, and there's no way. Like, I feel like I am right at the tip of the iceberg, just occasionally we'll dive in a little deeper, but then I talk to you, I talk to Sam, I talk to Morris, I talk to Kat, and it's just like, there's so many fucking movies out there. There's no way I'm ever going to get deep on this thing.
Oh, God, no, same. I actually feel that way about myself all the time, because it's like a good problem to have, though, because it means you'll never get bored.
That's
There's
true.
always like something new to explore. But yeah, no, there's so much. That's why you'll never hear me refer to myself as like, which I wouldn't anyways, because it sounds pompous, but I've never called myself like, oh, film expert or scholar or anything like that. I'm like, I'm a writer. Like, I'm a film and music writer.
Yeah, I'm a film fan more than I am a film scholar, definitely.
If I was to refer to myself as scholar, I would have to see way more films than I have.
Oh, you'd need like a robe and lotion and all kinds of stuff if you're going to start calling yourself a scholar. Yeah. At least a new chair, if not anything else.
A throne.
Yes.
Nay, a throne.
King in the castle, king in the castle.
A box of Cubans and a pet monkey named Siegfried, and, we're good to go.
Yeah, one thing I've been really happy about is that, so every March, because it's Mike White March, every March Chris Dashiu has asked me to program the Culture Cast. So I've gotten to do a little bit of house cleaning with him, where it's like, hey, here are these movies that I've always wanted to see. Let's go ahead and do that for Mike White March, which is probably a little counter to what he would like. Like, maybe he would want me to actually say, here are 4 great movies that I love and that we should talk about. But instead, I'm just like, here's 4 movies or 5 movies that I've never seen. So let's roll the dice and take a gamble and see if these movies are any good.
I think sometimes it's fun to kind of do spontaneous episodes like that, or what we were talking about earlier, like when you do an episode on a film you really don't have any knowledge about. Like, I think sometimes that could be as rewarding, if not more so in some ways, than covering something you're really familiar with.
Yeah. So this month, in March, we are doing, and there's not really that much of a theme to it. It's basically foreign sci-fi from, I can't even say just from the 80s, because there's one from 79. So it's just like semi-obscure foreign sci-fi. So finally watching some Konstantin Lupashansky films, a Czech film I had never seen before, one called Bunker Palace Hotel, this French sci-fi film I've never seen before. So it's just like, all right, yep, let's do it up, Chris. So I'm hoping that he enjoys these movies. I'm hoping I enjoy these movies because they've been on my watch list forever.
That's cool. I can't wait to listen. Chris is a great guy, so I'm always happy to see his name pop up.
And I always like that he is one of these adventurous co-hosts like yourself, where it's just like, yeah, I don't care. Put me on anything. I'll watch it and let's check it out. As opposed to like, no, I only want to see these particular films. And
no, that'll come later when I get my robe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
My robe and my lotion. No, I think that's fun. I mean, because the thing is, like, that's, the whole thing about, the great thing about film is a journey, and so that's, when you kind of literally can kind of make it a journey and covering something new, that's cool. I mean, not everything's going to be a winner. Like, I've done articles where it's like, okay, I will write about this film, and sometimes it's great. Sometimes, like, I did a piece on some Joe Sarno films a few months ago, and, one of them wasn't that good.
Yeah, they can't all be winners.
But that's okay. No, it was terrible. Actually, it was beautifully shot. But if anybody's like, hey, let's watch Vampire Fantasies, I know the title sounds lurid, and you're probably like me, where you're like, ooh, saucy vampires in Europe. Hell yeah. No, don't. Take it from Mama over here. Just say no. Unless you like phalluses that are literally, I'm like, there's no way her womb is going to exist after this. Like, this is like ridiculous. But that's all part of the journey, like that's, sometimes I think there's a merit to watching stuff you don't always like. I'm not saying I want to talk about Forrest Gump anytime soon.
No, thank you. That's a hard no for me.
That's a very hard no for me. Unless it's the work print where everybody blows up at the end like Seeds of Man.
They got blowed up real good.
Can you imagine? Like, life is like a box of boom, it's like ends up turning into like Zabriskie Point. And all this great Pink Floyd music, and shrimp are flying in the air in slow-mo. Well, I think a lot of people would call Forrest Gump a letdown. I know I would. But
ooh, nice segue,
Zach,
Heather. Nice segue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Zach's last question for you is who, as far as interviews go, who was a letdown?
Well, I think the most notorious interview we've ever done on the show was with Alan Barron. So that was definitely a letdown that he was so combative when it came to his interview. If folks haven't listened to the Blast of Silence episode, first off, Blast of Silence is a fucking amazing movie, and you need to see it right now. And then after that, you need to listen to the episode so you can hear me get just... I believe the proper term is read to filth. So
the library was open that day.
Oh, girl, it was all tea and all shade the whole time. So yeah, that's one. But the bigger letdowns for me were the episodes. Some of the episodes were letdowns when it wasn't necessarily the people that I was talking to, but it was more like when I would have, and usually during the early, I'll just call a spade. A lot of the Justin episodes were kind of a letdown.
Oh.
Because there would be movies where I'd be really super excited about watching a movie and talking about a movie, and then he would just come in and be like, yeah, I didn't like it. And rather than like having a discussion, be like, yeah, no, it sucked. I was like, come on, no, like, Spook Who Sat by the Door, that's a fucking amazing movie. High and Low by fucking Kurosawa, that's a great movie. And it's like, to the point where I almost want to redo some of these episodes, where it's just like, let's get somebody who's actually excited to talk about these movies, or who can have a better argument than, no, it wasn't any good.
Yeah, how could you not have anything to say about anything tied to both Kurosawa and, I mean, Spook Who Sat by the Door? That's based on a Chester Himes novel, right?
No, it was Sam Greenlee, I believe.
Damn, I got my authors wrong.
It's okay.
See, that's why I'll never get the robe.
You just blew your Rondo right there.
God damn it.
I'll report to the Rondo committee immediately via email.
I still don't know how my name slithered in there to begin with. I figured I was like Rondo Kryptonite. I mean, because I used to write for, like, when I wrote for Video Watchdog, which they love that magazine.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Nothing nominated, which was fine. Whatever. I don't seek out validation through those means. But
well, they treated you like the ugly stepsister in that magazine, though, too.
Probably, yeah, but it planted good seeds. Actually, I remember Brad Stevens, who is a great film writer and has written the definitive book on Abel Ferrara's work. Brad actually remembered reading me in that, and so we're friends now. Actually, John Skip, who I wrote the Bizarro Encyclopedia of Film Volume 1 with.
Now available via Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
Word on the street is that book's amazing. and there's a chapter on Phantom of the Paradise, just saying. So if you love Garrett Graham,
and we do. We love Garrett Graham around here, yes.
Everybody should love Garrett Graham. I wouldn't trust somebody. If they were like, I don't like him, I would actually judge their opinion on that. I'm not proud of that, Mike. I should be more evolved. But it is what it is. Yeah. I'm only human.
I think I'm there with you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't. And again, it's not to shit talk Justin or anybody, but I don't know. My thing is, like, if I have a strong opinion on something, I can tell you why, too. Like, if I don't like something, I can give you specifics.
Well, and you can also have like a cogent argument about something where it's just like, oh, well, I found this to be a little much, but, this was okay, or da-da-da-da-da. But, yeah, I mean, and both of those, I mean, the books were fantastic. The movies were fantastic. So, I don't know. I love both those movies so much. And there were a couple along those lines. Like, there are some where it's just like, okay, I can see people not loving Shock Treatment, but come on. That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I love that movie. And that one's on my list. I've always wanted to do like a big in-depth piece on it, because that's a huge film for me. I absolutely love Shock Treatment. That is one I could talk about till the cows come home, because I have a lot to say about it. I love it. And also Cliff DeYoung. Why isn't he was ever like a bigger star? Like, he's always been a good working actor. Like, he's always gotten work, but like Cliff DeYoung, especially in that movie.
He's so good. Yeah. That's another one. Rob Hubbard actually wrote an article for Cashiers years and years ago about Shock Treatment, and I highly recommend that article if people can track it down. Right now, the Cashiers to Cinemark website is down because I don't know PHP 7.2, and apparently I need to now because it doesn't use the same commands as PHP 5.4 and under, which is the version that I know. So now I have a little challenge. Now I have to learn a new version of PHP so I can get my website to work again.
See, don't you hate it when things get updated, but the updates, in fact, aren't helpful and, in fact, more harmful?
Yeah, not backwards compatible.
Yeah, like, thanks, guys.
Yes. It's not compatible with my system.
I actually learned, this is, I know, a term that in the early 80s that like multiplexes were also referred to as tunnel theaters.
I've never heard that before.
I hadn't either. So the more we all know. It looks like we have one more questioner with a trilogy of questions.
Did I tell people they could ask more than one question? I guess I did. It's okay.
This is from Spencer Seams. And his first question is, he's wanting to know, are you planning on covering African films?
Well, little known fact, Heather, they actually don't make films in Africa. I don't know if you knew that or not, because it's a bunch of shithole countries over there.
Oh my God. Robert Wool, is that you? All right, I thought you were going to say because they're made out of Africa.
Oh.
No. I'm sorry.
So I believe I had a conversation with Spencer either earlier this year or last year. It must have been last year. And he gave me some recommendations. So of those, I managed to put one on the list for 2020, and that is a movie called Crumbs. So I'll be doing at least one African film this year. I was planning on doing a whole month of them, but then I ended up doing a whole month of Cinema Novo films. So I'll be going south of the border and going to Brazil, talking about all of these Cinema Novo titles. And next year, I hope to do a whole month of African titles.
Oh, that'll be great. Also, recently we did an episode on an Argentinian film.
And they had a huge film industry in Argentina, which we found out. So I'm sure we'll be able to do some more Argentinian films after that.
Absolutely. Ooh, we should do Feast of Flesh.
Ooh, there you go.
That's one of my favorites.
Nice.
Yeah. Spencer also wants to know, what are some of your favorite recent films?
Oh, geez. They just don't make films like they used to, like Gone with the Wind. So...
I know. It's like they literally haven't made a film like that since 1939.
I know, right? It's been kind of crazy. So there's a lot of films that I still want to see. Like I haven't seen Color Out of Space. I did see Midsommar, but I wasn't that huge of a fan. Yeah. I'm looking at my Letterboxd profile right now, which is a hilarious thing because it is almost completely movies from 1969 for some reason. I don't know how that could be.
That's kind of, I hate it when people ask me that question too, because it always makes me feel like kind of a bit of a fogey, because I'm like, when you say recent, is like 82 okay?
Right. How many years ago?
I did see, it's a Netflix movie, but My Name is Dolomite, the Eddie Murphy.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That was awesome. I loved that. That was completely just... I knew it was going to be good, because actually I'm friends with Mark Murray, who's Rudy Ray Moore's biographer, and worked as a historic consultant on that movie. And Mark's a great guy, and he knows his shit. But, that movie was great. I loved it.
I got my panties in a twist about that one, though, because they were showing things from the Human Tornado and kind of passing them off that they were part of Dolomite. And I was like, no. This is Human Tornado. Human Tornado, to me, is the superior film, and you can't just lump it in with that, but whatever.
I know. Yeah, I noticed that, too. And Human Tornado is, like, oh, my God.
I mean, Jean-Luc Godard could hope to make a film as good as Human Tornado.
I would much rather watch Human Tornado than Breathless.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah.
I fucking said it. I don't like Breathless. So there's my art house hot take. I did like A Woman is a Woman, though. Like I like some Godard, but yeah, no.
I like her Life to Live. I think that's pretty good, but yeah, I'm much more for give me the cinema of Cliff Rockmore over Godard, please.
I think one of my favorite parts is that scene in Human Tornado when he jumps off the roof.
Oh,
and
fuck
the movie
yes.
pauses, and he's like, hey, did y'all see that shit? Let's see it again. And the film spools backwards.
So good.
Oh, God. That, and plus gave the greatest phrase ever.
Bitch, are you for real?
One thing I did like about the biopic was when they're in the theater watching, oh, God, what was that 70s? The Front Page. But that blonde lady's like shushing that guy, and he's like, don't you shush me, Sandy Duncan. I laughed so hard. I was like, oh my God. He just called that woman Sandy Duncan. But yeah, no, that makes me feel better, Mike, that you kind of have the same problem, though, because I just don't. It's not that I'm sure neither one of us, we're not the kind of people who are like, oh, everything sucks now. It's not like that. It's just, sometimes just like between what you're working on with film writing and podcasting, tied also kind of sometimes where the wind takes you. And a lot of times where the wind takes you isn't just like this tight list of new films. I do want to see Color Out of Space, though. That looks great. I love Richard Stanley. Hardware is another film. Why isn't that in print? Like that's not currently in print right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
We need a fancy pants special edition Blu-ray of that.
Yeah, the fancier the pants, the better.
Give me all the fancy pants. And also, I know two people who do great commentary on it.
Mm-hmm. I think one of those people wrote a book called The Bizarro Film Encyclopedia.
Well, John Skipp's awesome, but I was talking about me. Yeah, it's because especially people be like, "Oh, you got to see this film," and I'm like, "Do I? Do I need to see Midsommar? Samar?"
I was very lucky that I got to be on a plane ride recently because then I got to see things from the last 3 years. So then I'm catching up with The Farewell and going back to even Ocean's 8 and stuff, the Peanut Butter Falcon. I was like, okay, but I'm going to piss people off when I say this, but I think my favorite movie of last year wasn't Parasite. It was Avengers Endgame. I just get into these Marvel movies and I really loved Endgame and I fucking nerded out like a little kid. Just some of those scenes, I was just like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm here for. When all those portals start opening at the end, and I'm sure you don't know what I'm talking about, Heather, because you don't strike me as an Endgame fan, but when those portals start opening and you hear Sam say, "On your left," I fucking burst out crying like a little girl. It was sad. Because I'm a 47-year-old man and I'm just so in love with the Avengers.
I don't think there's anything sad. I think whatever makes you happy. That's the thing, is that the main thing that any piece of film has to do is it has to engage you in some ways. And different films engage us on different levels and for different reasons. I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, I'm not really big into the superhero thing. My favorite superhero film's probably Watchmen or Return of Captain Invincible.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because, come on, that Alan Arkin? Yes.
Christopher Lee, right? Yeah.
Singing about booze? That's literally a sexual fantasy of mine that nobody needed to know about.
The truth comes out on Ego Fest 9.
That's right. After dark.
Ego Fest After Dark.
After dark. But,
last time I had one of those, I had to watch it scrambled on a high-numbered cable channel.
Is that an elbow or a butt? I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm not going to shit on anybody's parade. If something makes you happy and makes you feel that good and vibrant, I think that's legit awesome.
Maybe you could tell that to Marty Scorsese, okay?
You're canceled, Marty. I could never cancel Marty. I can't even joke about that. No. I love Taxi Driver too much.
Oh, yeah.
Now, imagine if Avengers Endgame had a character like Marty Scorsese's from Taxi Driver in it.
You see that scree up there? You see that scree? That's my wife. You know who's up there with her? That's a Kroll up there with her. You know that?
Side note, I always wondered if Robert De Niro patterned how his character looked in Angel Heart off of Scorsese and Taxi Driver.
Oh, I can see that. Nice.
They look similar to me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, other than the nails, I don't think Scorsese had those creepy egg nails. I don't know what you call them.
They were good for cracking eggs. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, God. But no, I think that's a lot of people. My husband watches a lot of the superhero stuff, so no judgment.
All right.
But if you love Forrest Gump, though, I will judge you.
In all seriousness, though, I really did like Parasite quite a bit, and especially after reading more about it, there was a great article that Jane Gutter, a.k.a. Carol Borden from the Cultural Gutter, that she posted, and it went into so many of the actual things that the movie was referencing in Korea, talking about half basement apartments and all these things. And it was just like, oh wow, it really made me appreciate the movie even more, because there's certain things that you can come into the movie with, but then it being from a totally different culture, having those things explained to you in a non-pedantic way, I was just like, oh, okay, this makes me appreciate things even more.
But see, don't you think you would have enjoyed that movie more if it had been made by SAG members, Mike?
I'm looking forward to when they dub it into English, because I just can't stand these subtitles.
See, anybody that's like, I hate subtitles, I prefer dubbing, make them watch an old Gamera movie where the Kennys are dubbed, and you'll be clawing your eyes out. Because, Kennys in their natural language were bad enough, but dubbed Kennys are the worst Kennys, and that's a fucking fact.
What's this?
A dart.
You come back too.
Good day, Kondo. Idiot, don't say Kondo. Say good day, officer.
It's all right, young lady. My name is Kondo. But see here, the two of you kids shouldn't ride on one bike.
I'm sorry, but I'm in a hurry.
You're in a hurry? This time of day? Ah, it means you kids are up to mischief. I understand.
No, we aren't. We're out here looking for a spaceship.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, you're joking.
No, we saw the ship land here. It's true. It came down last night.
I see. Yes, but if you're naughty, you know what I'm going to do with you two mischief makers? I'm going to shave your heads. Yes, it's true. Here, don't forget this.
We do have one more question, Mike.
The final one.
The final one. It's the final countdown.
After that, you can't ask me any questions, Heather.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm lying. You can ask me anything you want.
I will get to my question about your throne in a second.
Okay.
But Spencer wants to know, what are some of your favorite movie screening experiences?
Okay, so this story I have told before, but I'll tell it again, just for shits and giggles. One of my very favorite screening experiences had nothing to do with the audience, nothing to do with the theater, had everything to do with expectations and having them subverted. And this is the reason why I don't like previews or trailers. Because when I went in, I was asked to go to a screening with by a friend of mine, Sean von Hoffman. He asked me to go to, I believe it was a distributor screening. So way before the press gets a chance to see a movie, distributors will get a chance to see it and figure out, like, do we want this in our theaters? And I went into this movie, this Coen Brothers movie, and this character, Norville Barnes, just keeps showing this little circle drawing that he has in his shoe, and he just keeps saying, for kids. And I had no idea what it was. I just thought that he was a crazy person. So when they get to the moment, spoilers for Hudsucker Proxy, I don't know how many fucking years ago that was, but when they get to the moment where he reveals that he has been carrying around the plans for a hula hoop in his shoe this whole time, my jaw hit the floor. I was tickled pink watching that and seeing that and not knowing what the fuck that was. Now, had I seen a trailer, I would have been still delighted by that movie, but I wouldn't have had that shock of surprise and just the delight that came with it. And I wish that I had that ability to see so many more movies without knowing what the twists were or being able to figure them out. I am very anti-preview so much because I don't want to sound like I'm some sort of super genius or something like Wile E. Coyote, but you show me 2-3 scenes from a film or shots from a film, I'm going to try to figure out what order they're in and how the story is going to be told. So keep that shit away from me.
That is an awesome story, by the way. That's the first time I think I've heard it. No, I love a good trailer, but I hate the way, I feel like trailers, the way they're cut now, are just, they give way too much away. And that's the thing is it's the old Carney saying that you sell the sizzle, not the steak.
Right.
And they're selling too much steak. And now granted, in fairness, I've seen some old trailers where they did the same thing in different ways, obviously, but where it's like, Jesus, I just saw the whole movie. Why do I even need to go see this movie? You've literally given me the whole movie in this trailer. So I wish there was more of there can be a great subtle art to cutting a trailer that doesn't give anything away, but gives you a flavor of what's to come. But boy, now it's all steak, no sizzle.
And going back to the Marvel movies, I mean, they are great at marketing stuff, but I will not watch their trailers because they're doing the same things that too many other studios are doing. And I think Disney especially is just completely guilty of this. The teaser for the trailer, the first trailer, the second trailer, and the third trailer, where it just keeps coming out every 3 months they'll have a new trailer, and it's just by the end of that last trailer, you know everything that's going to happen. And then if you have shots in the trailer that aren't in the movie, people go fucking crazy and they start accusing you of bait and switch. It's just like, come on, guys. Like, there's no way Rogue One was going to be a good movie, no matter what shots were in the trailer. I'm sorry.
But Mike,
they had a TIE fighter at the end of that thing that she was walking on. Blah, blah, blah. So, how about you, Heather? What are some of your favorite screening experiences?
You know, that's I don't think I've had as many as you've had some amazing ones. But I would say one of the first ones that comes to my mind actually was Hodorowski's Dune. It actually played here, which I live in Arkansas, and so I played here for like, I think, a minute. It was a miracle it even came down here. But my husband and I saw it, and it was an afternoon matinee. We were literally the only people in the theater, which was sad. But it meant I could be as loud as I wanted to, so I was just ebullient. And I got to be free with my ebullience. So when Hodorowski is talking about, like, I'm raping Frank Herbert, I'm raping the bride, and I'm like, yes! And I'm like, I wouldn't do that in front of other people, because they'd be like, what, woman? It's like, it's metaphorical. Anybody's going to be, like, trying to Me Too Hodorowski. It's metaphorical rape. He's not literally going to dig up the corpse of Frank Herbert and rape the bride. Okay. But also when I got to go to New York and see at the Lincoln Center, when I got to see Andrei Zulawski's On the Silver Globe, that was like a religious experience. That was awesome. So those are the two. Oddly enough, this is kind of like not a film that people probably wouldn't expect you to bring up, but I remember going to see with some friends the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie opening night. And that was awesome because it was a packed house and everybody enjoyed it. Like, it was just the good, not to sound like a hippie, but like, it was just such a good vibe. Like, everybody just was having a blast with it. And I think when you get to sit in a packed theater and everybody's on the same page.
Oh, yeah.
With the film, that there's an energy to that's just so cool and just so much fun.
So normally Andrea and I don't do too many double features, but we went to see the first G.I. Joe movie, which is a piece of shit. And then we went right from that into Pirates of the Caribbean. So Pirates of the Caribbean 1, I stand by that completely and say that it's a great film. I have a lot of fun watching that movie, but it was made so much better by seeing this piece of shit G.I. Joe movie before we went in. It just made the world a better place.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Another one was when Chuck and I did a date night and saw Jackass 3D.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when we went to see the first Jackass, we had a great time.
Oh my God. I love Jackass. I even love like the associated shows like Viva La Bam and the whole CKY stuff. But, no, we were literally the only adults, I think, in the theater. It was like us and a bunch of teenage boys who had suckered their girlfriends into going, which this is the third one. So I'm kind of like, the girls were very grossed out, but it's like, it's Jackass. What did you expect? Like, but it was great because, just be a collective choir of, oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had a friend in town, Dion, who was on the Raw Talent episode, and he was like, "Oh, I love Jackass. We should go see the Jackass movie." And I was like, "Well, and after I adjusted my monocle and looked down my nose at him, I was like, I'm not into such base entertainment." But we ended up going and we saw it at a dollar theater. The film, it was still being shown on film. The film broke. Or was it just a digital malfunction? I don't remember, but I do remember one dude just like immediately getting on his phone and talking super loudly to some friend of his, just like, "Yeah, I'm in the Jackass movie." But yeah, I had so much fun with that first one. It was amazing.
Oh God. Yeah, no, the first one's great.
When fucking Rip Taylor shows up at the end, I lost my shit. Oh. Yes.
Oh God. Oh, another screening that was a lot of fun was when we saw Pacific Rim.
Oh, nice. I really like that movie.
Oh, it did too. Well, we saw it in 3D. That was another 3D one.
Oh, nice.
And that, like, total kaiju boner.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. That was... Oh, I'm sure that Chuck had a bruise on his arm because I kept being like, oh, my God, honey. He gets the elbow and you're like, oh, my God, this is awesome. Because we both love kaijus in general. We love the big monster movies. And so that one was definitely just so much fun. So.
I loved having Clifton Collins Jr. in there. He is so much fun to watch. And just, yeah, we are canceling the apocalypse speech. I was just like, fuck yes, sign me up, man. I am there with you right now, Idris. I am so aboard this movie.
Well, and plus they had Charlie Day. And I love Charlie Day. I'm a huge It's Always Sunny fan. And he's just, Charlie Day's great. And I loved, I'm gonna screw up his name. Is it Gord Berman?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, who was like the guy that was with Charlie Day. He was totally doing a Jeffrey Combs to me.
No wonder I loved him, because I love Jeffrey Combs. Come on. Jeffrey Combs should be in everything. And Anthony James. Somebody make that buddy cop movie right now. I want the buddy cop movie of Jeffrey Combs and Anthony James right now.
I know the second one wasn't very good, but I did have fun with it, especially when Charlie Day was speaking Chinese, speaking Mandarin, and I could actually understand what he was trying to say. And then when the woman was just like ripping on him for how horrible his Mandarin was, I was laughing quite a bit.
See, I haven't seen the second one.
I wouldn't rush out to see it, but I wouldn't rush out to see it.
It's better than G.I. Joe, though, right?
Well, the second G.I. Joe was way better than the first G.I. Joe. The second Pacific Rim, not as good as the first Pacific Rim.
Yeah. Well, you gotta have Del Toro. That's the thing. You gotta have Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, you definitely do. And he's another director where it's just like, man, give this guy all the money. Just let him work continuously and do whatever comes into his mind, because I want to see it. Even if it's like a misfire, his misfires are better than other people's passion projects.
Absolutely. No, that man, I love him. And plus, he is a big champion of one of my favorite films ever, which is Ken Russell's The Devils, which is another film that is languishing. And not in any kind of currently legal format in this country. It's ridiculous.
So wrong.
So that would definitely be a big episode for me if I did a show. You know what grinds my gears?
All right, Peter Griffin.
That is the last of our questions.
So with that, let's move on to the thanking of our Patreon people, our new patrons who have joined up since the last Ego Fest. So like I said, not that many, and actually some very familiar names on this list, which makes me very happy, especially ones that I can pronounce without having too much trouble. So with that, Kelsey Sorensen, Andrew Hendrickson, Dylan Davis, Robin Smith, K.L. Young, Christopher Fitzpatrick, Rune Jacobson, Shadan Bhatt, hope I pronounced that right, Susan White, who was a professor of mine when I went to U of M, and she's actually been on the show several times, so she shouldn't be contributing because she's already contributed so much to the show, but thank you, Susan. Same goes for Lutz Bacher, who was just on an episode that we did. Well, actually, he was on 3 episodes last year. He was on The Reckless Moment, and he was on 2 episodes that we did about Ernst Lubitsch films.
Oh, super cool. That's awesome.
Also, thanks to Monica Sheets. See, again, Colin Gallagher. Guy's been on the show several times. Gonna have him on some more, but yeah, he's giving me money. Guy's he's like doing classes and stuff. He's like not necessarily a poor student, but he basically is, so he shouldn't be giving me money. And last but not least, Leon McShannig. So thank you so much to all the new Patreon people. You are what helps make the show go.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And thank you, anybody. Just, sometimes you support us just by listening and downloading and, and of course, any of the feedback you give us that we haven't vented about on this particular episode. Thank you so much.
And you did mention sharing before, and sharing is a big part of it because there's a lot of people out there that might enjoy the show. They might hate it with, like poison, but there's some people that might like the show and they just have never heard of it before because we're not about to be making any sort of like vulture.com or forbes.com or any of these .com type lists of best movie podcasts because we don't have the power of like, Earwolf or any of these other bigger companies behind us because you might not know this, Heather, but the projection booth is made by one guy sitting in his basement. I'm not like collecting royalties from anybody on this stuff. So yeah, we sell sponsorship through Spreaker, but I told Andrea how much money I made from podcasting last year. And when she was done laughing, she told me to go back downstairs.
Oh, God. That's so sad. Oh, God.
But you do it for the love, and you do it so that people might enjoy it. It's always nice. And it's always nice getting feedback and stuff, and not just from, patrons and all that, monetary feedback, but actual, like, real feedback and like, hey, you should listen to this show, or hey, good job, projection booth, or hey, I listened to this episode. It was pretty cool, or whatever. So that's always appreciated.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially because I find, I use this analogy a lot for writing, but like sometimes when you put something out, it's a kind of a bit like putting a message in a bottle. And so when you do get that feedback, it's awesome because it lets you know, like, yeah, somebody, there are people that, are listening and reading, and that's always so good to know, like we do it for the love, but yeah, like anything you create, it's good to know that it's actually getting out there to people. So we definitely appreciate all of you.
Did you know that I've started a new podcast within the last month?
No, what is it?
It is called The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller. Have you seen that on my feed?
Oh my God. Okay, I have. This is the title alone. It's told me. I'm so rusty on Barney Miller though. Chuck, my husband though, is a big Barney Miller fan. I don't know if you know that.
I did not know that.
Yes.
So far, we've put out one episode, and so far 28 people have listened to that episode.
Man. But you know what? That's 27 more people that have listened to somebody else's podcast.
That's true.
That's always how I look at it, because that's, anytime I start getting down on myself, because there's been times where I've posted some dumb status on Facebook that's a complete, just ridiculous, that will get more likes and comments than like an article like doing the Rocket Files.
Right. Where it takes so much research time and tracking down all this stuff, writing all this stuff, perfecting it, rewriting it. And then you say something stupid on Facebook and it's just like, yeah, you go, girl.
And it's like, which I mean, appreciate, again, it's like, I'm not bitching, but it's, but when I do that, I also remind myself there are people that, they'll put out an article and they may get like one or two people, and that's it. If they get that, so it's, life I find is all about perspective. So, and it's only the first episode, it's like anything. The more you put out there.
Well, once we land Hal Linden, then it's going to be nothing but, fame and fortune and riches just pouring from the ceiling.
Well, and you better be careful, because once you get the Linden on there, the women start ovulating and become more fertile. Cows start mysteriously giving immaculate birth.
Dogs and cats start sleeping together.
It's insanity. It's straight up insanity. So you better be ready. Because the potency of the Linden is legendary, sir.
So I've been burying the lead. So the other thing I really wanted to talk about, that was, I think, all the way at the top of the notes, but I decided to jump into talking about Rondos way too early. But I'm actually going to be doing some traveling in April, right around the time of my birthday. And I'm really hoping that we can get some folks out so I can, press the flesh, eat the cookies, do whatever it needs to be done so that folks will come out and see Skiz Sizik's Ice Pick to the Moon, which he took, speaking of delayed gratification, 20 years to put this documentary together. Like, I think I've known Skiz for 22 years, and he has been working on this pretty much the entire time that I've known him.
Man, God, he's got to be feeling like the proudest papa right now.
He should, though at the same time, he's not, selling out every venue, and he doesn't have distributors knocking down his door, but he should be very proud because it's a fucking fantastic film. And if folks don't know about Fred Lane, well, watch this movie and you will definitely know about Fred. And my God, it's so good. It's one of those where it's like, if I didn't know Skiz, I would still say this is a good movie.
Well, see, there you go. I want to check this out. And for anybody that's going to be in the area, do you have some venues listed?
I do. So Saturday, April 4th at 1 p.m., and I should say 2020, because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was probably from like 2 years ago. Wasn't one of mine. It was another one. And it was just like, this offer ends December 25th. And I was like, yeah, what year though? I was like Kyle Reese. What year? So Saturday, April 4th, 2020 at 1 p.m., I will be at The Venue on Winnebago, and that's the name of the place, is The Venue on Winnebago, which is in Madison, Wisconsin. And the next day, Sunday, April 5th, 2020 at 2 p.m., and these are central times, which you're familiar with, Heather, I will be at The Empty Bottle on Western Avenue in Chicago. And that'll be me, Skiz, and Jen there for all these screenings. I will just be sitting in the back, laughing inappropriately loud because that's kind of my shtick. Talk about inappropriate laughter and talk about not the best screening experiences. Did I ever tell you about the time I got threatened in Swordfish?
Oh my God. No.
So I went to see Swordfish with my friend Mike Thompson, who's been on the show a few times. He was on the Mad Max episode and the Highlander episode. The whole thing is like Hugh Jackman falling in love with Halle Berry and trying all of these things to like save her and all this kind of stuff. And at one point, John Travolta just pulls out a gun and fucking shoots her right in the chest. And it struck me very funny just because it was like so unceremonious, and just because Hugh Jackman had been trying so hard to keep her out of danger. So I laughed in my very horsey laugh, which I cut out of most of the episodes if I can. I always try to eliminate my own laughter. Laughed very loudly, and this guy behind me says, "You better hope that she survives this movie."
Because it's real, Mike.
Yeah. Guess that was very wrong to laugh at Halle Berry's fake death. And spoilers for Swordfish, she comes back at the end, so I didn't get beat up in the parking lot.
Well, thank goodness.
Yes.
That is hilarious. Yeah, I'm actually jealous. That's way better than the time that I was taking an American film class in college, and we watched Blue Velvet. It was a very small class, and in the class, like most of it were like kind of sheltered small town kids.
Oh Lord.
That I think thought it'd be a fun elective to take, and then like me and two film bros who would not talk to me. I don't know if it was because I was a woman or because I'm just a weirdo. But anytime I tried to be like, oh, cool, like two other people that are into film, I tried to talk with them and they'd be like, and look real nervous and leave. So whatever. But the part where he goes like, what you drinking? And he's like, Heineken, fuck that shit. I laughed out loud. I guffawed because it's funny. I'm sorry. It's funny. But, David Lynch, if you don't get it, you don't get it. And I think you would have thought I laughed during like snuff film footage or something. Like some of those kids they probably thought I was even weirder. Whatever. It's funny. I make no apologies. I think we have given our listeners, and hopefully you guys feel the same way, we've given you guys a veritable buffet.
I'm not looking forward to editing this episode.
I just run it as is.
Oh, I fucked up way too many times. I hide all the mistakes I possibly can.
I don't blame you if I had to edit my stuff.
All those times where I was trying to come up with a name and couldn't come up with a name. And yeah, I want to sound like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
That's understandable, but I mean, I think you do. That's the thing. We're human, and anybody that says they know everything like that, don't trust them. They're full of shit. Like no human being, right? Like, unless they're just psychotic. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Works for me. Well, Heather, thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to the listener that voted me in to be on this episode. You know who you are. We love you, and thank you.
Heather's doing the fingers to the eyes and then like back to you kind of thing.
But with love.
I'm looking at you. I'm looking right there. I see you. But
doing it with love. It's more love, less like I'm going to meet you in a dark alley.
Yeah,
there's
no
menace.
Yeah.
Zero menace.
I have a pen. I have an apple. Apple pen. I have a pen. I have pineapple. Pineapple pen. Apple pen. Pineapple pen. Pen pineapple apple pen. Pen pineapple apple pen.
If you enjoy this show and want more people to know about it, head on over to iTunes, leave a comment, and rate it 5 stars. Make sure you like and share us on Facebook, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Just search for Christopher Media. Thank you in advance for supporting Christopher Media by clicking on the PayPal button and by clicking through to all the sponsors who support ChristopherMedia.net. Most importantly, we would like to take the time to extend an extra special thanks to you. Christopher Media could not exist without your support. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net, and thank you for listening. Christopher Media. Let's make some noise.